you're crying blood. Things hard in Trinidad. Now you have to sacrifice out your flying blood. Things bad, bad, bad in Trinidad. You want piece of the apple, you hear it sweet. You don't want no more truly mango to eat. You're still telling me that I should go out there. No way, Jose, because I pledge to serve my country.
All those boxes on Facebook and YouTube. Want to say a special thank you to all listeners. Thank you so very much for joining us. And of course, we want to bring in see Trini Lopez over the inside. And let me bring in welcome.
Good afternoon, listeners. There's a lot of scratch, a lot of feedback. Scratchy. Yeah. It's a lot of scratchiness coming from you. I wish one of the other co-hosts could log in and they will hear it too. There's a scratchy feedback.
Is that better?
A little better, but I'm still hearing like we're in traffic.
Okay, that only could be. Let me take this out again. Is that any better?
A little better, still like you're in traffic.
Okay. I'm breaking up.
This is better. This is better.
This is better?
Yes.
Okay.
But
okay.
it's still coming in with a feedback. Something is feedbacking there for me.
Yeah.
Like a wire.
Let me get rid of this other thing here. Hold a minute. I got rid of that other one. So is that any better?
Normal.
Okay. Normal?
Yeah.
Normal. Oh, wonderful. Steve Trini Lopez, welcome. Cindy J, welcome. Steve Trini Lopez, just let us know if you hearing me now, and Cindy J, let me know if you're hearing me as well. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, it's In the Village with the Dark Triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM. We come to you every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 7 to 9 p.m. Let me bring in the other third of the Dark Triplets. That's the one and only boy. The man called himself the Phantom Boy. Gary, welcome.
Thank you, brother. Good night, Trinidad Tobago family, wherever you're situated. This is your Trini Phantom. It's good to be back with you again. I always look forward to this.
Good night, Gary. What's going on?
And Hannah, you know something? That is what good about WZYE 95.9 FM. You know, we have, and I tell all you, if we have 5 loyal listeners, we good to go. Cindy J, we want to thank you so very kindly. And Steve Trini Lopez, two of our loyal. We have others too, eh? Two of our loyal.
Oh Lord. You tie up your tongue in a minute, you know.
But I tap my tongue. My tongue went between my teeth. But we really and truly want to thank you all, you know, for sticking and staying with us, you know, through thick and thin. You know, we continue to struggle here at WZYE 95.9 FM. We continue our revolution, and this revolution will be expanding as we go forward. You know, this revolution started with a fight for exiled and stranded citizens, and we're gonna continue, man. We're gonna continue. You know, so Gary.
Yeah, brother.
What is the latest on exemptions, boy? What is the latest? Give
Well,
me an update.
we are facing a situation here where the government trying to sort out things. There are no current flights scheduled, even though we have several people with a body waiting on the ground. People got stroke. They got either their parents or their husband is in a critical medical situation that really needs to get down there. I'm trying to sort out to give them any kind of a social assistance, you know, whether it's volunteer or from the government. And, you know, everything is shut down with the government right now. So I wanted to get across I sent Ms. Donna Cox a message trying to tell her I want to talk to her urgently, you know. So, you know, I mean, these are the things I'm trying to sort out. Diane, you want to take it there for a minute for me?
Yeah, and I see, oh boy, Anselm, I don't know now. I don't know what's going to happen to Trinidad and Tobago. You know, it looks as though they waited until there was a crisis to try to come up with a crisis plan. I mean, you know, you had an example, a global example of catastrophe and what was waiting to happen. You know what I'm saying? You should have got behind the ball and start rolling, not wait till the ball is right inside your court now to start trying to come up with a plan for it not to knock the goalpost, you know, out of the way. You know what I mean?
You see what happened, Diana? I think that we became complacent. You know, like how the West Indies cricket team become complacent because it was the best in the world, right?
Yeah.
They didn't improve on the way they practice. There was different things coming out that they're doing. People are now using analytics and so on. West Indies think because they are the fastest bowlers and the best spinners, they're gonna continue just to play cricket the old way, and hopefully, you know, they will win. But when Australia and
Pakistan, India.
Pakistan, Zimbabwe, and Sri Lanka, and all them set up past we fighting just to make it into the World Cup as far as cricket is concerned, because we didn't update, you know, what we are doing. And listen, when the Trinidad and Tobago was ranked 1 by Oxford, I was the man all over social media posting it there, because I'm proud we ranked number 1, but we didn't put things in place, right? For when that second wave came. And in addition, coming soon is that third wave. Are we putting things in place? And I'm saying to the government of Trinidad and Tobago, right? We're going to see just now that Bermuda just donated some vaccine to Trinidad and Tobago. I think they donated 8,000 of the AstraZeneca vaccine, right? And then
Bermuda, like they say, vaccine down there without each other.
Yeah. And listen, St. Vincent, I think, give us 24,000 vaccines as well, you know, in order for, you know, to deal with it. But listen, I am happy. I am more than happy that Bermuda and St. Vincent is giving us vaccine. But what I'm saying to the government of Trinidad and Tobago is this, you see that little kind of pit kind of thing, you know? It's like you have a little, you know, them cars called a little pit.
But Ansem, beside that, like I said, we're doing the lockdown. I agree with the lockdown. We have to try and take control of things, but some Trinidadians that's so they're lawless, wayward, and they don't take the concept of how serious this thing is. I mean, I see them confronting the police endangering the police officer because they have their mask off their face and up in the man's face shouting and screaming. You know, the police telling them go home and they want to fight. You know, so these things, this coming. Come on, we gotta be real. Anyway, my issue is what I'm calling on the government to do is as simultaneously as you stage the lockdown, you have to put things in together to coincide with the lockdown. You have to put where the support system is in place to assist the citizens who will be how to say they'll be distressed by this lockdown. There will be a loss of income. There'll be a loss of ability to get food supplies. There should be funding in place. The social services does lockdown, so who are trying to access social welfare or put in an application cannot access it. So all these things should have been put online and well thought out. The government is making decision without not completely thinking out the process. Well, I'm going to create a lockdown. It's like I'm going to battle and I don't assess how much guns and how many men I need and how many tanks and how many jets I need. I go into war. So I pull out my cutlass, I go into war and realize that I up against machine gun and submarine. You know what I mean? So I mean, come on, man. Let's get real. We're going to stage a war. Let us prepare ourselves with all the additional necessities to go along with the thing. You're locking down. You have to provide the sustenance to the people. You know what I mean? So I've also reached out to to Ms. Cox trying to get this done. You know, and Diana.
She's on my agenda to pen a letter to and explain what is going on because people are reaching out to us personally for assistance because they're coming, they're not well and they don't have any jobs and they can't go to work and they need assistance. So how what is in place? You can't wait till you're in a crisis to come up with a crisis plan. This should have been sorted out. You should have expected that there was going to be a second wave. There's going to be a third wave. What are you doing? Instead of harsh policing and come up with some sort of
Diana,
plan.
in some instances, the police have to really get harsh with the people.
I understand that. Gary, I
because you see
understand
it for
that.
yourself. You see
I
it for
understand, but
yourself. The police can't seem to reason with them. Police asking them to go home and they want to fight.
I understand that, but not instead of only harsh policing, you have to think about hungry children.
But
Right?
yeah,
Children are
some
going
things have to be put
hungry.
in place. Things have to be put
Yeah.
in place. They didn't put everything in place. They just kind of doing thing half cocked.
Because is this SOE? Is it a sword? Is it a sword or is it a shield? Are you going to use it as a sword or are you going to use it as a shield? Because if you're going to use it as a sword to further, for lack of a better word, cut my people up, oppress them, then no. We have to be very careful because under states of emergencies, a lot of mischief can emerge. And Anselm, you know what I'm talking about, right? A lot of mischief can be born out of states of emergencies. Populists can become frustrated, right? This is the second waves. They're using the word lockdown, and I want to use national pause. I read a lot, and out of state of emergencies in other countries, a lot of mischief is born. So you don't know what people are cooking up behind closed doors.
Well, it's not a matter of mischief, If you pressure, it's like a pressure cooker.
Thank you.
You keep putting pressure on people, and you're being oppressive, and you're not being inconsiderate. This government has been inconsiderate from day one. We have tried to get them to change their actions a little bit, and we have managed to succeed a little bit, not much. But we have to get the government to understand where they come to the point they understand that we are not going to tolerate their abusive and oppressive behavior. Yes, we understand that we have to take certain steps, but you have to put certain things in place together within steps. You have to show the people, I am going to try to assist you as your prime minister as the best of my ability, And you have to make that call. You have to make a call to action where you're also asking not only those that are being paid, but you're asking for people to volunteer. You want to mobilize the country. You have to mobilize everyone. The government paid for the education of the citizens of this country, and they have to understand. We have to put them in a position where, I know it was tax dollars, but what I'm saying to you is that they have to come to the understanding that they need to give back. You don't collect that free education and run away with it. You have to have some decency and volunteer yourself in an emergency situation where you give back to your country. It's a time to stand up. You know, look, we outside the country, and look how we're dying and spending the money, and we're spending our time, and we're making all this effort to assist those who are within the country. You know, and we are, and I'm calling on the people within the country to stand up and support each other in this emergency situation. And I'm also calling on the Prime Minister to bring our togetherness, to bring the country together, to make that call to action.
And Gary, let me intercept you here. The opposition also needs to show some sort of
Yes,
unity and
definitely. But I'm
support.
saying, as the Prime Minister, he is the chief commander in chief. So he has to even put that call to the opposition. You understand? He has to say, well, he has to tell the opposition leader, listen, this is a time to come together. We need everybody, all hands on deck, and then and to the citizens too. You know, this could have been done a year ago. You know, this is the idea I was trying to share with them. Instead of they playing the politics of who to blame and who not to blame, you know, this is the whole. From the time you realize in an emergency situation, you make a call to action, and they call opposition and everybody together, and all the stakeholders, and say, listen, like again, we are dealing with something we don't know what we're dealing with. We really don't know what we do. We have to bring all hands on deck. We have to prepare. We have to organize. We're going to have people going to need food. You know, we're going to have people going to need health care. So we have to put things in place in order to be able to meet the needs of our citizens. You know, and you have to engage. You have to engage and encourage citizens to volunteer. If you get the people on board with you, that's half of the battle won there. If you get the people on board with you to work together with you, you know, you want half the battle, you know. So this is what I'm looking for. This is what I am proposing. This is, you know, I'm trying to encourage this in the country, and I'm doing everything to get this kind of volunteer here, but to get the government to understand this, you know. Diana?
Yeah.
Let me say a
Go ahead.
welcome. Let me say welcome to Gayatri, looking in Virginia. And let me say a special welcome to Megan Morrison.
Yeah.
Megan Morrison, it appears to the first time that you have joined us. We want to say welcome.
Hello, Megan.
Yeah, we. Thank you, Megan. Where are you joining us from? And Gary and Diana, let me bring in Tommy here. Let me bring in Tommy.
Oh God, he always late, boy. Where you on the yellow bus or you know there's diesel in the bus. They put gas in the diesel bus or
Stormy, take it easy with me, please.
Tommy, welcome. Let me say this, eh? Let me say this simply. Right? Oh, Megan is in Mount St. George, Tobago, boy. Megan.
Welcome,
Megan.
Welcome.
Welcome, Megan. Megan, yeah, my father from Roxbury, you know.
yeah.
How far Mount St. George from Roxbury? I mean, I should know, but I don't know. Megan, how far Mount St. George from Roxbury? Come, my father.
You don't know he's a Vincentian.
And so see if she want to join us for 5 minutes. Let her hear her voice a little bit. See if she wants to
We
join
have
us.
we have a guest coming up, Gary. I can't
5 minutes,
squeeze my guest.
5 minutes.
You know you like to squeeze my guest.
You know, Megan. Or Megan said it's 20 minutes before Roxbury. Megan, thank you so very kindly. Yeah.
Hey, Megan.
Hey, Megan, welcome. Let me say this, eh? I want to say this, right? I always talk about the government being proactive, right? And here's how the government should have been proactive. We know that when the pandemic started, the government was giving out grants to people, right? And the government indicated that they gave out several grants, correct? So to me, the easiest thing for the government to have done is to create a database of all those people who received grants in the past.
Yep.
Right? And now that you have created a database of all the people that received grants in the past, those are some of the same people who are going to be suffering again. And you could easily either deposit money into their bank account, into their credit union, wherever it is, and you do it simply so you will have less people that you have to deal with. Now,
Amen.
you come back, you have to do an online application now. People are going to fill out the application again. You're spinning
Mm-hmm.
it up in mud.
Mm-hmm.
But what I wanted
And
to answer is why it is that the government can make a call on the University and University students who are highly educated and trained and skilled with information technology to assist their country.
no. That had to go. That had to go to a corporation. You
No.
can't give it to them because they might be doing it for free. Somebody had to. Somebody had to make.
And what's
Somebody had,
wrong with that? Well, what you know, ask you,
But we could
well,
bring them in.
ask not what you can do, what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. JFK and Uriah Buzz Butler used to say that. You give back to Trinidad and Tobago. What's wrong with that?
But there's a Saudi
Education paid
proverb.
at taxpayers' expense, right? The education paid
Uh,
at taxpayers' expense. Come on. You know what I mean? Well, we have to encourage it. We didn't set those things in place. And even though you
that's
and I
right.
have been on the ground trying to do these things and remotely, they don't, a lot of people are not following through. It's like we're trying to steal something from them. We see where
Go
it comes
ahead.
into play now? You see where it
Mm-hmm.
comes into play now? The need is here.
Yep.
The need is here where we need citizens to volunteer. But again, the leadership has to make that judgment call.
What you was
We
gonna say,
can.
Tommy?
There's a Saudi proverb that goes like this: ask the experienced rather than the learned.
That's right.
and
Yep.
listen. And Megan says, bearing in mind that the first phase, some applicants never received data grants. And Megan, that's absolutely correct, right?
I heard
Being
about that.
that
Man. I heard
some
about that.
people didn't receive grants, now you can be able to deal with them people easily
Easily.
because you already have the information in a database. You don't have to, they don't have to go on online and fill out any information again. You already have the information. It's simply that could be thousands and thousands of people that don't have to go now and fill out another application,
Nope.
right? I mean, people are already stressed. I don't work. I can barely feed my children. I
I
can
might
barely
have
put food on the table.
I might have COVID or I'm frightened to catch it.
Yeah,
More stress.
yeah, more stress. I don't go now and fill out the application. I know how to wait weeks. I don't know how long before I
Hmm.
will get that money.
Yep.
I mean, come on, let me just simplify the process. And when people like me and us speak out, you know the first thing that they say?
You stink.
I stink on dirty.
Uh-huh. And
Oh, I against the government.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're trying
against
to
the
bring
government.
yeah,
I
you're
trying
trying
to
to
bring
bring
down the
down
government.
and
And some,
Azerbaijan.
yeah, I trying to
Mm.
bring down the government. I trying to
And so,
improve. Yeah, get on me.
and let me comment. Let me just not to cross you, but let me commend you on your patriotic way today.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Thank
Well,
you very
right.
much. Thank you
You
very
had
much.
you had to bring that up, huh, Tommy?
Yeah, yeah.
Like he was out of the track or what?
No,
Uh,
I come back from the track. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And simple things like that, right? Now, if we here were in correspondence with the government of Trinidad and Tobago, we could have said, well, listen, fellas, this is something all they could think about. And
mm,
let me tell them something else, yeah? All I like to point, you know, Trini like to point. Let me tell you something else, yeah? You see all they're coming out and all they're saying, we gain 8,000 vaccine from Bermuda. We gained 24,000 from St. Vincent. Round of applause. Very good, very good.
That's
That's
right.
excellent. That means to say that we could vaccinate more people in the country. So soon, not soon, but we are getting to the point where we could reach herd immunity. But all you please, all you get a loan from China. Why all you don't just go and buy 2 million vaccine? China will send it to all you. China will send all you and take all. China will take back their own money. It's their money they're taking back. So buy 2 million vaccine and tell China, listen, all right, China, you see them 2 million vaccine, only take $20 a vaccine, right? Only keep 40 million, or that 1.7 billion only loan me, right? No, not easy, simple, right? And only send me the 2 million vaccine next week.
Mm.
How
I'm
difficult, eh?
I'm not endorsing China's vaccine.
Mm.
But Tony, I want to say this, I want to say this, right? In this situation where Trinidad is in, any vaccine
It's
is
better than
better
that.
than no vaccine.
Yeah, I agree. I agree because everything is up there.
What we have to do, we have to put things in the perspective that is currently in. Currently, Trinidad is in a sad state of affairs. COVID-19 is concerned, right? And if you had told me 2 weeks ago, I might have this. I may have had the same opinion. Although don't take that Chinese vaccine, eh? But you know what, Tommy, Diana, and Gary, to me, 50%, 70% effective rate is better than 0%, right? So there's a possibility at least you could be protected. And the worst case scenario is you have to take a third booster shot, right? And that will help the country bring down the amount of positive tests they have. You know, today I think they had 500 and something positive tests. Here we have another new list, another new follower. Where Francis, welcome and good night. Where are you joining us from? We like to ask people where they're joining us from. So for me, if they get 2 million vaccines from China, right? Then they can vaccinate 1 million people in
You're getting
Trinidad.
a feedback and scratching. Something is scratching.
I haven't touched anything.
Uh-huh.
They can get now 1 million people vaccinated quickly. 3 weeks later, right? They get the other 1 million vaccinated, and Trinidad is now past herd immunity. We could deal with what's going on in the country. Listen, these are tough times. We can't do the things the same way and expect to get different results.
Nope.
We have to come up with different ideas, different solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Ray is also from Tobago. Ray, what parts of Tobago you're from? Because I just talked to Megan from Mount St. George. Ray's from Tobago.
I think she was the co-host on Rise and Shine with Brother B. Are you that Ray Francis? Confirm.
Ray Francis, yeah. So folks, look at Tobago. Tobago having more positive cases more than anything else. We can't wait. The longer we wait, the worse it's gonna get. Bonaccord, she's from Bonaccord. 100,000 and doing me nothing these days.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
She said no. 100,000 not doing us anything. We cannot continue to do the same thing and expect to get different results. We have to be innovative in this time in Trinidad and Tobago.
Definitely. Yep. And you're faced with a crisis that the man of character falls back on himself and he imposes his own stamp of action and takes responsibility for it and makes it his own. That's a quote by Charles de Gaulle. Charles de Gaulle was the premier of Paris. When you fly into the airport there, Charles de Gaulle, that airport is named after him.
All right, Diana, Tommy, and Gary. Another thing, you see this rhetoric of who approval? I don't care if it's who, when, why, or how. I don't care who it is. You see that? This is again the same that telling all you the innovative and critical thinking we don't have, right? You see, if we can get a vaccine from when, and that is Russia, we taking that. If we get it from Cuba, and that is where, we taking that. All they talking about, we only taking vaccine with who approval. What? Who approving all them vaccine? Every one of them. So at the end of the day, we have to be innovative and creative and can't be thinking about, oh, we only want, and let's see the rhetoric now. Every time they pull a press release, it's who approval. All right, so let's get one approval, and why approval, and where approval. Oh, come on, man. People getting in the country. That's not my quote. Somebody put it getting in the country.
I want to secure the border, and I feel like if I get some wild meat and some duck and goat, I think I could get some people to make some cook by the border there and keep them people outside from coming in.
I will deal with them too.
We could organize a line watching the border.
Yeah, listen, I deal with them too, right? I'm going by Joe. I'm gonna call up Joe. I said, Joe, we have a problem. Joe, we have a problem,
Wait, all on first name basis?
Yeah, first name is Joe, calling him. He go call me Slim. He go say Joe, he go say Slim, what you want? I said, Joe here now. We have a border problem here, boy. Send me 4 them helicopters now. You understand? And let me lease a two boat from you now. Let me lease 2 Coast Guard boat from you for a year now. Because we have a problem here. We want to take care. Joe go say, Slim, man, don't worry. That's done. Normal. And that is it. Right? We patrolling the borders.
What I'm suggesting is we could get some fellas to line by the beach and watch you trying to crawl up the beach.
No. They pay them off. They pay them off. No. They pay them fellas off. Yeah, cause the Trinity's already bringing them in already.
Yeah. They go pay them
off. No, Gary. No.
They go pay them off. They go. We. That's why I say we going up in the air. But you know,
that too. We get the we put in man on the ground, and we get the air support too. Listen, the United States is very readily available to help us with any security issues in the country. They have been right up by our side. But it's up to the government of Trinidad and Tobago to make that call. The United States will provide the support, but the United States is not going to try to overstep us. We Gary, have to say what we want.
Gary, that's not easier, though. That's not easier because here's why. Based on global politics, United States look at us as a supporter of Maduro, Venezuela.
Yeah, but
the United States have sanctions against Venezuela.
Listen to me, don't worry about politics. I'm telling you right now.
No, Gary, no. This is important.
Yeah, I know. What I'm telling you is, if Trinidad and Tobago, I'm telling you right now, if Trinidad, and I know what I'm talking about, right? If Trinidad and Tobago asks the United States military, the Prime Minister Dr. Raleigh write Joe Biden, President Biden, and say, I need some support with our borders here. We're getting it. I'm telling you right now, we're getting it. I see.
Well, I will like that. I will like that to happen. And
I'm telling you, we're getting it. Forget all the old talk and all the thing up in the about this and that and that. I'm telling you right now, if Dr. Rowley make a call out to President Biden that he needs help with border security, we're getting it.
But you ain't think they asked though, Gary?
Huh?
You ain't think they asked?
I don't think Dr. Rowley asked for certain things.
Nah, I don't believe that. I believe they asked.
But I'm telling you, we're going to get it. The United States is going to support us there. I'm telling you, I am 100% confident.
But Gary, you have to understand though, this is politics. Trinidad and Tobago is a full supporter of Venezuela. The American government have sanctioned against Venezuela.
Yeah, that was
with all the things that we did with Venezuela.
I'm telling you right now, in spite of all of that, answer me. I'm telling you right now, if Trinidad and Tobago asks the United States for help from its Coast Guard or the Navy or whatever,
I believe they would because they have an embassy there. If they didn't have they have an embassy in Trinidad and Tobago. I believe they would. Yeah.
Listen to me. I believe the United States military on the ground there, training our people, our defense force, they're training our police. They have provided a lot of support over the years. But I'm telling you right now, if they ask.
1 minute, Gary. 1 minute. Anselm, do you see a guest hanging out backstage?
Yeah. Let me bring it in.
Thank you.
Let me see Kino Sledge Bird there. I good with messing up.
She's tied for time.
Kino Sledge here. We're gonna bring in Kino Sledge Beard. Welcome. Where are you joining us from? I think Latoya is from Tobago. I think. So let's bring in here Dr. Dr. Faith, welcome to WZYE 95.9 FM. It's a pleasure to have you live and direct from Tobago. Oh, that's why I want them Tobago.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? I didn't make a connection, you know. I said, well, wait, now, boy. And we're happy to get people from Tobago, you know. We are so happy to get people from Tobago. So Dr. Faith, let's do a special welcome to you to WZYE 95.9 FM. It's a pleasure to have you. And I know Diana reached out to you, right?
Yes,
Yes.
she did. Yes, she did. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so
Good
much, man.
night,
It's a pleasure
Dr.
being
Faith.
here.
Thank you for
Thanks you.
accepting. Thank
My
you for
pleasure.
coming on. Right. You're in the village. Now a lot of fire is past here.
Yeah,
The
yeah, fire
guests
is
and
passing you guys.
fire is past in the village, but we have fire. We have water to out it like rose, eh?
And this is not
Nothing personal.
FIIE. This is not FI, this is FYAH.
YAH. All
When you
right.
say Tobago, you know what kind of fire there's having Tobago. You know, I was just telling people, Dr. Faye, that my father is from 𝗪𝗶𝗹𝗃𝗏, Tobago.
Yes, I heard when you told Megan that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, my father name is Shaki. I don't know where you get her name from, eh? But
Okay.
that,
Okay. Well,
that's my father.
that is what 5 minutes from me. I'm in 𝗪𝗏𝗬𝗘 right now.
Oh, look at that, 5 minutes from you, boy. Yeah, my father in Tobago, and I have my brothers, Sean and them, and all my different relatives, all different part of 𝗪𝗏𝗃𝗏. So it's always good to have a person from Tobago in the village. And Dr. Faith, it's a pleasure for us to have people like you here in the village with us. To bring, we don't just want that Trinidad perspective, but we want that Tobago perspective as well. You know, what's going on in Tobago, what's going on in the ground in Tobago. You know, I can see that one of the things that's happening with you guys now is that, COVID-19 is on the rise.
It is.
And it's a big deal for a small, island like Tobago, where COVID-19 is on the rise. So you go ahead, you take it over.
Well,
So first of all, tell us what is your connection as far as and who you are.
right. So I am Dr. Faith B. Israel. I am currently one of the assemblymen within the Tobago House of Assembly, but probably more important than my political connection is the fact that I have a doctoral degree in public health, behavioral and community health sciences. So dealing with COVID and stuff like that is exactly what I went to school to do. So I've been spending quite a bit of my time doing public education on COVID, making recommendations on how I think we should be responding to the pandemic, and trying to get as many people, behaving in a way that is going to save lives in the near future. So that's who I am. That's what I do right now.
So
Sorry.
go ahead, Anna.
Go ahead, Dr. Faith. A lot of people are expressing concern as to the speed of the vaccine and how they came about it. Can you delve into that and sort of put our minds at ease that the vaccine is okay?
Yeah, so that is a question that I've answered at least 10 times for the day, probably already. So this is the situation. We recognize that we have been taking vaccines for as far back as you could remember. I am sure all of you who are in the studio have been vaccinated. I am sure if you have children, you've probably taken your children to be vaccinated. I know in Trinidad and Tobago, at least, for you to register your child in a preschool or primary school, you need to show them your immunization card. So vaccination is something that we have been dealing with. As a matter of fact, the reason we do not have diseases like COVID-19, like polio or measles or yellow fever or any of those issues right now for most countries is because we vaccinate our children against those diseases when they are 3 months old and 6 months old, and we follow up with the clinics and so forth. So when COVID-19 came about, we have to recognize that COVID-19 actually is because of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which is in the grouping of coronaviruses. And coronaviruses are viruses that's been around for a while. I'm sure we all, before COVID-19, we all remember when there was SARS a couple of years ago, and we were all monitoring planes that came from China. We noticed Chinese people started wearing masks all the time. Shortly after that, we dealt with MERS and so forth. So the coronaviruses have actually been around for some time. And because scientists recognize the potential for them to have widespread harm, as they are doing now, scientists started looking at the coronaviruses and trying to figure out what is the best way to protect against it. What's the best way to develop a vaccine for it? What's the best way to treat with coronaviruses? So when this came about, when COVID-19 came about, we recognize that scientists quickly did two main things. One of them was identifying the genetic makeup of the virus. So within a couple weeks of determining that, yes, this is the actual virus, there were published the genetic code, the DNA of the virus was already published and sent out to different scientists. Say, okay, this is the information you guys need. This is how this virus looks. This is how it's made up. Go now and start trying to figure out whether we can do a vaccine, what else we can do. And that started happening very quickly. There's actually a young Black professional. She is one of the ladies who worked on the Moderna vaccine, Dr.
Correct.
Corbett.
Yes.
Who,
Correct.
if you listen to Dr. Corbett spoke about getting the genetic code basically and going into her lab on a Friday evening, and by Monday morning, practically working all weekend. And by Monday morning, she had the group of them had discovered how to make this vaccine work, how to make one of the mRNA vaccines work, because they had that information relatively quickly. And then we went into the entire testing of the vaccine. So different groups, different people, different entities. You recognize you have vaccines from Russia, vaccines from China, vaccines from UK, vaccines from US. The Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and Pfizer are the ones in the US. They then went into what is known as clinical trials. And I think this is the part that most people think just happened too quickly. Because we only started learning about it's only but a year's anniversary basically since coronavirus came around, but they really went into those clinical trials right after these different groups were able to create their different versions of the vaccines. And if you recognize, clinical trials usually last months to about a year, and it really is on the anniversary of that time that you realize them started rolling out saying, November, December, yes, we're getting the vaccine. Yes, we're getting the vaccine because we've gone through the many, many months of clinical trials. So that happened, and that happened in a way that was normal. That happened in a way that was by no means rushed, because the clinical trials have to go through the various steps: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. To get from phase 1, you have to have a certain set of things happening before you could go to phase 2, before you could get to phase 3, and so forth. So all of those things actually happen. And then we have the emergency authorization that has happened for most of these vaccines. Now, the other little thing that caused the production and availability of the vaccine to be sped up significantly is the fact that the pharmaceutical companies, because this was a pandemic and because we were seeing such large levels of death and disability and that kind of thing, the pharmaceutical companies were not working on their own to do the research and development of these vaccines. The rest of the world chimed in. WHO actually created what is known as a COVAX facility, which was an opportunity for countries to pay into the research and development of the vaccines. So that it's not just the pharmaceutical companies that had to find the resources to then make the vaccines after they've discovered that they are fine and they are safe. So because the rest of the world was funding a lot of the mass production of the vaccines, by the time FDA or WHO or EMA or any of the regulatory organizations were able to say, yes, we've looked at your data, we've recognized that you followed all of the steps, your data shows that the vaccines are efficient to some degree, one way or the other, depending on which vaccine you're looking at. We are giving you, whether it is the authorization is immediate, temporary, whatever authorization we are giving you, you now have the ability to go and distribute the vaccines. And the day after, for example, we all saw it. FDA gave approval for Pfizer. By the day after, Pfizer already had the vaccines on the market because they were already mass produced in tandem, just waiting for the emergency authorization. So that is basically what happened during the year period. People are skeptical, obviously, because people are also seeing a lot of information that we normally don't have access to. Those of us in the medical and public health and scientific world recognize that, when before when you go through the process of, for example, of testing some kind of medication, for example, for many, many years, you had to have actually gotten a copy of a journal and read through the journal article that was written in all of these words that most people don't know what those words mean to understand what is happening. So when you talk about people are talking about all of the side effects and so forth, that information has always been there. That information has always been reported. It is just that it has been reported in journals that most people do not read. Now we have the benefit of internet. We have the benefit of Facebook, of opening your phone and getting a WhatsApp message saying this is a side effect and how many people have died from a side effect and so forth. So that information is now out there and many people are accessing it without the adequate knowledge about how to process that information accurately. And I would give a very quick example. I got a message a couple of weeks ago from a friend of mine who sent me an article that said that, there were these 50-something people who had died from blood clots from one of the vaccines, from the AstraZeneca vaccine. And it was like, oh my God, she was panicking, blah, blah, blah. I took my time and I read the article. And I read it. And I read the pages and pages and pages and pages. And all the way down, like quite down in the article. That is where they said that these 50, how many people were out of, I think, 30 million people who had taken the vaccine. So when you do the calculation, 54 out of the 13 million is, that's a ridiculously small percentage of the people who took the vaccine got blood clots. But of course, you had to read the entire article to get to that information. And if you just looked at the headline was just a very scary, so many people died from blood clots, but you didn't recognize that it was, yes, 50-something. We don't want anyone to die. I'm sure those families are sad and grieved and so forth, but it's 50-something out of 13 or so million. So it was putting it into perspective that needed to happen. And then I messaged her back and said, well, that is, I calculated the percentage and it was less than 0.00%. And she was like, oh, well, that's not so bad. No, it's not. But you just needed to put that number and the information in the headline in perspective. And that is what we have been failing to do. And I think a lot of the misinformation is not necessarily inaccurate information, but it is just information that is not correctly contextualized. And that is what we need to spend time doing, I think.
Now, Dr. Faith, let me say this. This is the first time that I know you. This is the first time I'm hearing you. And I see Megan put something in the chat. Megan said Dr. Faith should be Minister of Health for the entire country. Maybe not just the country, maybe for the Caribbean.
Hello.
No, actually, I mean, thank you, Megan. Actually, Megan is one of my political colleagues, so I think she may be a little biased, but I am actually looking at the data and I'm looking at the research from outside.
Dr. Faith, let me stop you.
Go ahead, Anselm.
Megan is not being biased.
Thank you.
I am hearing you for the first time, and as you know, I'm a professor as well. So I could tell, I have a little incliner. Just a little bit, not much, just a little bit. But here's my question for you, Dr. Faith. Why is it that in the Caribbean, we are only using AstraZeneca and Sinopharm, and we here in the United States of America also manufactures AstraZeneca, but they are sending it to third world countries, including the Caribbean and other African nations? People are kind of skeptical about that. What is your opinion on that?
So that is an important question. AstraZeneca has not gotten authorization by the FDA in the United States. So okay, so let me go back a little bit. Countries like Canada, US, these first world countries that have a lot of money, while the rest of us were trying to scramble to figure out what we're doing with COVID, they were mass purchasing all of the different vaccines, right? So we recognize now the US has a whole set of AstraZeneca vaccines that they are not using because they had already mass purchased AstraZeneca vaccine. My understanding is that Oxford AstraZeneca it's a European country, so we also have that US versus Europe kind of thing, that almost an economic battle that's going on. And my understanding is that AstraZeneca has not applied to the FDA for emergency authorization use. They have applied for full use, and full use is going to take a little bit more time for all of that processing to happen, while they've gotten emergency authorization in UK and so forth. In the United States also, you recognize that like Pfizer and Moderna, they are using a new technology known as the mRNA vaccines, right?
Correct.
One of the first things that we recognized with those two in particular was the fact that they needed to be stored in sub-zero temperatures. There is the storage requirements. It was just ridiculously cold. And if you recognize, for most places in the Caribbean, even in Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm talking about Tobago specifically, I am not sure that we have the capacity to store those vaccines at that kind of temperature. This week, I think Pfizer, the European authorization agency, I think it's EMA, I think is the name of it. They just looked at the safety of the Pfizer vaccine being stored at regular temperature, at like just a regular refrigerator. So they just gave approval for storage of the Pfizer vaccine in a regular refrigerator for up to 30 or 31 days. So that storage was a critical issue. So now that we've gotten approval for Pfizer for at least up to a month, I think that would then open up Pfizer as an option for most Caribbean countries. Most Caribbean countries did not have the capacity to do that kind of sub-zero storage that was necessary for Pfizer or for Moderna, unfortunately.
Dr. Faith, have you ever been invited to the Ministry of Health press conference?
I stand on the wrong side of the political divide.
She is with Watson Duke.
Well, listen. This is about country, though. The information you are sharing here is fantabulous information, and as a matter of fact, this Oscar says, but we get more info from you than from the Minister of Health.
Thanks, Oscar.
No, but through the truth, I really don't. This is the first time I'm meeting you, and the information you are giving me is because I had questions about AstraZeneca and Sinopharm, and you have told me succinctly, very succinctly, why it is the Caribbean and other countries have to get Sinopharm and AstraZeneca because of storage. I mean, that makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. I mean, for all your fears and all your the conspiracy theories that we have, it makes so much sense. But I have not heard that from anyone.
I follow her around like a toddler on social media. Dr. Faith, about her chip in the vaccine. How truthful is that, Dr. Faith? Did you elaborate on that?
Well, that is okay. So let me put it this way. The people who are complaining and are posting and are sharing information about a chip being in the vaccine are all doing it using either a cell phone or a laptop that is connected to the internet. Where we already, if anybody wanted to know where you are, they already have access to where you are based on the cell phone or the internet laptop that you are using. So there is absolutely no reason for anybody to put a chip in a vaccine or anything like that, because we all have it. We all walk around. Some of us have 2 and 3. They already know where we are based on this.
Thank you. And I have another question for you, Dr. Faith, if you don't mind me.
Diana, when we hold that question, because we're gonna have to go for a quick break.
Of the hour.
We're gonna have to go for a quick break. But I want to say, Dr. Faith, I want to say this, and Dr. Faith, for transparency, I'm a supporter of the People's National Movement, but in the village here, we bring everybody come in the village. Everybody comes into the village, right? And we accept people because what we are doing here is respect is country before party, CBP, country before party, and we are doing country before party here with this. But I can see, Dr. Faith, that why you being part of the PDP have made a significant impact on Tobago. Because I like to keep it real. I like to keep it real. You know, because the information you are sharing here, for the small time you've been on here, you know, you giving me information that I couldn't get from no one else. I just couldn't get it because I've been asking the question.
Right.
Because it's a question a lot of people want to ask the question, boy, are they giving me the AstraZeneca because they have something in it and they want to give it here in America? You know how we just think, right? They're sending it to third world countries, they're sending it to Africa, they're sending it to Latin America and give them, like, they want to use them as guinea pigs now. You know, and that is the kind of rhetoric when we don't have all the information. But when people like you come and allay our fears about information, and it makes sense. It makes a whole lot of sense. So, Dr. Faith, we want you to stick and stay for a little bit. We're going to go for a quick break. Of course, folks, it's In the Village with the Dark Triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM. We have with us Dr. Faith Israel out at Tobago, boy. She, you know, man, it's knowledge for so, you know. It's knowledge with 2 Ks, you know. It's not 1 K again, knowledge here tonight, you know. This is knowledge with 2 K. And, you know, they had something with 2 K before. Then they had something, sometime it was 2 K something, you know. Yeah, but anyway, we're going to go for a quick break. And, of course, we have to play our quick song here. We'll be right back. Stick and stay. We'll be right back.
Is Pharaoh still existing? As he before, resembling an Israelite, not being treated right, enslaved day and night. Oh, we just can't go on this way. We just can't go on this way. Please deliver us today. We just can't go on this way. We like the Israelites still in pain. We just can't go on this way. So send us another Moses again. We just can't go on this way. Oh, 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 oh. Lord, look around, you'll see the Pharaoh mentality ruling universally. Leaders promoting their ego, being a modern Pharaoh, tyranny is the manifesto. Oh, we just can't go on this way.
And of course, we are back with you. It's In the Village with the Dark Triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM. And we also have with us on the outside, they call him Tommy. They said Tommy's the outside child. I don't know where to get that from, but that's Diana. I ain't taking no responsibility for that one. That's Waveney Diana Benskin. But we have with us here tonight, boy, we pelting knowledge all over the place tonight, but it's all kind of
Answer.
COVID-19. Yeah.
Listen to me. I have on the phone here with me, Doctor, how are you doing? I have a woman on the phone here with me. Her husband just died. She's trying to get an exemption.
Oh,
okay? And this woman is crying. Okay?
Oh my God.
This is what I'm dealing with here right now. I want Trinidad and Tobago to hear. There is no flight schedule. The husband had a stroke. I was trying to get an exemption for her. This is what I'm dealing with here.
Well, Gary, I want to say this, sir. I sure the MP Fitzgerald is listening,
Yeah.
and he go take care of this. I want to say he go take care of this. You understand? Because we
Yeah.
do things real time here in the village.
So
So
reach out to Mr. Hines. Mr. Hines, I hope you're listening.
Yeah, he listening. He's listening. He definitely
Okay.
listening. Yeah, man. We go take
I
care of
am.
that. We go. Yeah, we go take care of that. Right? So
See what?
Dr. Faith, you see what we just go through here. We not, and you know what else tell we in Trinidad and Tobago? You know what people just tell we? Oh, let's stay up there. What happened? Oh, they don't live here. Oh, what happened? Oh, they leave we down here alone. Look, you see the woman calling from Trinidad to the United States of America for something going on in Trinidad and Tobago. And that's what they tell we. No much time they tell me, boy, leave, you don't live here. You ain't live here for 40 something years. Yeah. But you know what it is? I'm more patriotic than half of them.
And they
Half of them.
call us mischief makers. Tommy, you have any questions for Dr. Faith? Dr. Faith?
Absolutely. Dr. Faith,
Yes.
as far as, good evening. As far as the Sinopharm vaccine goes, do you have enough faith in it as, oh boy, that's a pun on the word faith. Do you have enough faith in it as we would have it, like, let's say, in maybe AstraZeneca or even Moderna or Pfizer?
So the Sinopharm vaccine is actually one of the vaccines that uses the oldest of the vaccine technologies. So, for example, the Moderna and Pfizer use the mRNA. The AstraZeneca uses a different kind of virus that we know does not cause the harm that COVID does, and it uses that to give us the vaccine. The Sinopharm, though, what that uses is basically what we originally have been using for vaccines for a long time, which is it actually does use the SARS-CoV-2, which is the coronavirus that is there. But what they've done is actually used a chemical to kill the part of the coronavirus that causes it or allows it to replicate within us. So using that vaccine, it comes inside us. It does not replicate the way the coronavirus normally replicates because of what they've done to the virus itself, but it still allows your body to recognize the virus and to make antibodies for the virus. As a matter of fact, this is the method that we've been using for viruses for decades. So it is actually using a very old technology that is a proven technology over the years. So I don't have any issue with the Sinopharm vaccine. I know that there's been data recently where I think it's Seychelles or one of those countries.
That's my favorite place. That's my favorite place, Seychelles.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's data showing that Seychelles, which is has one of the highest rates of vaccinations they use a mix of the Sinopharm and the AstraZeneca, that they have been getting a reinfection, or they've been getting a lot of people getting infected with COVID-19. But it's important to know a couple things. One, Seychelles did a fantastic job with their COVID-19 response. So they have almost 100,000 people living there. From my reading, they have maybe 8,000 or 9,000 people who've gotten COVID-19, and it's only a small number. I think maybe 30 people have died in Seychelles from COVID-19. So that number in itself is so ridiculously small that I don't even understand how they've been so successful. But the thing is, what they've recognized is that the people who are now getting sick with COVID-19 and the people who are particularly getting severe illness and the few that are dying are from the side of the population that did not get vaccinated. So what is happening there is not as a result of, so the reemergence is not as a result of the vaccine or the vaccine not working. It's the people who did not get vaccinated that are actually getting sick. And it's important for me to stick in now that a critical thing that we need to be aware of is that for this particular type of vaccine for COVID-19, for all of the vaccines that are relating to COVID-19, the vaccine does not prevent you from getting COVID-19. What it does, it prevents you from getting severely ill. So you could be vaccinated and you can get COVID-19, but it is going to prevent you from getting severely ill and possibly die. So that is where the benefit comes in from taking the vaccine for COVID-19. The thing about that is, though, is that you could, if you are vaccinated, and you happen to still pick up COVID-19, and you are fine because you've been vaccinated, you can still pass that virus on to somebody else who is not vaccinated. And then they could have a severe illness and possibly die as a result of it. So that's why it's important to get as many people many people vaccinated as possible, because it is going to prevent the negative effects of severe illness and death. That is what the vaccine does.
Now, Dr. Faith, I want to ask you the next question. I like to ask plenty questions. I don't know. You know, when you're a professor, you have to ask plenty questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's the question, right, Dr. Faith? And why is it the government of Trinidad and Tobago haven't ordered 2 million vaccines from Sinopharm, right? And a follow-up to that, why is it if you can get vaccines from Russia and you can get vaccines from Cuba, and they may not WHO approved, but we know sometime down the road they will get WHO approved because it's really bad in Trinidad and Tobago with respect to COVID-19, so you could start to protect the community and maybe we can reach herd immunity, which is about 70%. What is your take?
So I actually agree with the government's policy to limit to limit use to the kinds of vaccines that we know have been given approval by at least the international regulatory body, by at least WHO. I agree with that policy. The vaccines coming out of Cuba aren't quite ready yet, but we know that Cuba is a phenomenal state. I am sure that when they come out, it will probably be the best vaccine of the options when it finally gets out. But I think that just going and grabbing vaccines that were not at least approved by a set standard, a set minimum standard, is not a wise option. So I agree with the government's policy on only using WHO approved vaccines. The thing about that, one quick thing though. The thing about that though is that WHO only approves vaccines from entities that approach them. So WHO does not go to Russia and say, we want to approve your vaccine. Russia has to approach WHO to be part of that pool. So that has not happened. And I don't know why, or maybe I do know why, but that has not happened.
But Dr. Faith, there have been countries who have been using Sinopharm prior to WHO approval.
And that is their choice. Yeah.
Right.
That's fine.
And so what I'm saying is that if we have this situation in Trinidad and it's getting worse and worse, we put up some statistic 2 days ago, whereas that the positive test in Trinidad and Tobago was higher than it was in New Jersey. And we have 8 million people living in New Jersey. Right, Tommy, look up for that statistic. So we have 8 million people. They had less positive tests than Trinidad and Tobago in 1 day.
Yeah.
So that
but I think what we are seeing is a botched response. One of the things, for example, that I've said it's been at least a year now, I've been saying, because I was looking at the research way back when. For many years, for many months in Trinidad and Tobago, we only tested people who were symptomatic, who had COVID and who had symptoms of COVID. We refused to test people who were not asymptomatic. So I could have come to you and said, I have been in contact with this person. I am I'm not feeling any way, but whatever. We never actually, and these were even people, to tell you how skewed the response was. We refused to even test people who we know were known contacts of people who were positive, simply because they did not have any symptoms. So I think several things happened. We had a lot of missed cases that we did not manage well, and that started blossoming. That started getting out of hand. We also had a situation where a couple of weeks ago, we basically said, whether you like it or not, whether you agree on it or not, see what happened in Trinidad and Tobago for Easter. that was a problem. That was a petri dish of infections going wild. When you look at the videos of people who were, hundreds and hundreds of people on no man's land, for example, and that kind of thing, who were just partying, liming, and not, they were not social distancing because people really just took that weekend and went wild. And we are now seeing the repercussions of that. So yes, we need to do something, and we need to do something quickly. But I don't think it is wise to just jump on and say, let us take any vaccine without having at least a minimum standard on which vaccines we would take.
Dr. Faith, I have a question for you. Can you mix the vaccines? Can you take Sinopharm and then take AstraZeneca?
So that is not recommended right now. So I know for a fact in Trinidad and Tobago, if you've taken the AstraZeneca, then your second dose will be of AstraZeneca. If you've taken the Sinopharm, which they'll start, I guess, tomorrow, then your second dose will be of the Sinopharm. I have not seen any data that shows that it is okay to do it, but I also haven't really seen any data that shows that it is harmful to do it. We just don't know just yet, and because we are not sure, it's best to just stick with the one that you got originally.
Okay.
Dr. Faye, there's a question on the chat says, what do you think Trinidad and Tobago needs to do to prepare for another pandemic, even if it's 100 years away? I'm talking about 100 years away, buddy.
It could be next year. The year after, the way it's happening. Yeah. Several things. One, we need to look at what happened. We need to look at three things. How we test, how the system responds to positive cases, whatever it is, and how we are able to prevent cases. So testing, we need to figure out how we would be able to test for whatever it may be, because most likely if it's a pandemic, it's going to be it's probably going to be another virus, if it's another pandemic, or another bacteria, but more likely it's going to be another virus. So we need to figure out whether we have the capabilities to test for the virus. Trinidad has the capabilities to test for viruses right now. Tobago actually doesn't. It's one of the reasons our numbers are so low right now, even though it seems to be high. It's because we still have to send our samples to Trinidad to be tested, and we have to wait in line, in the very long line. So we're not getting results for weeks, 2 weeks before we get our results. We also need to have a designated, coordinated infection control response. Trinidad was able to, because they had 𝗪𝗏 already set up, because they had 𝗪𝗏 kind of sitting there waiting, they were able to set up a parallel response relatively quickly because the physical infrastructure was kind of already there to do it. So Tobago needs to do that to make sure that we can respond on that level, because we do not have the physical infrastructure. We are still in a situation now where, even though there's a parallel healthcare system in Trinidad responding to COVID, if you get really sick with COVID in Tobago, you go into the same hospital as if you have diabetes or if you have anything else. That is just what's going to happen, because we never actually created an infections control institute of sort to treat with infectious diseases specifically. So that is something that needs to happen. We also need to rework a lot of our policies. A lot of the policies that, well, to be honest, we don't have a lot of policies. So we actually need to start creating policies. And the policies that need to be created need to be done collaboratively, because you recognize now that you now have the police being a part of the COVID response. You have the medical people being a part of the COVID response. But you also have the inter-island transportation being a part of the COVID response. And ensuring that whatever policies that we create include all of these different arms of people, the social, economic part of it, that also needs to be a part of how we respond to these things. So ensuring that there are policies that work individually, but also link these entities in a way that makes sense, that needs to be done, and that needs to be done now. By the way, there's a really good example, because a couple years ago in the UK, I think it was, they actually had a mock pandemic, and they did a full review of all of the systems that needed to be put in place. And that report is made public now. So it's a very good model for how we could actually do the same thing in Trinidad and Tobago for future pandemics.
So Dr. Faith, what we do here, we started this program fighting for exile and stranded citizens who have to file for exemptions to come back to Trinidad and Tobago. Since the new minister have come in, things have gotten better. We keep it real here. We are honest. We don't if we say country before party, we can't hit it with the hammer on the head, when things have changed. It has gotten better. What is your position with respect to exile and stranded citizens? And let me give you a quick example. In the United States here, we take what's called a rapid test. Like I at Seton Hall, once a week I have to go take a rapid test to see whether I'm testing positive for COVID-19 or not, because I'm also coach of the cross-country team. So they just wanted to check to make sure everybody, has been tested, right? Why is it that Trinidad and Tobago don't say, all right, we can get, I don't know about now, because the situation is we're in dire straits right now. But before, why couldn't they have said, anybody that's coming back home with a negative PCR test, and once you reach into the airport, you take a test, a rapid test, just to be sure that you twice. So we're going double. We're going PCR test negative, right? And we're going a rapid test as soon as you enter into Trinidad and Tobago. How is it that the government don't think about such ideas or innovative ideas or different ideas, rather than just the only solution is to lock out and exile your citizens?
Yeah, I don't know, because you could even look at other Caribbean islands. Barbados, for example, has there was a very short time where Barbados borders were closed, but I think Barbados is actually a very good model of being able to keep your borders open and ensuring that when people come in, you have to show a negative PCR test that was done at least no greater than 3 days before you get on the flight. And then when you get there, you have to be tested again. You have to be quarantined. It even went as far as opening it up to tourists, where there were hotels that were quarantine hotels. So, you're there for the week, the 2 weeks, but you're having a grand old time because it's part of the tourism product. So yeah, there were just I am not sure why we chose this kind of hard stance on having our borders opened or having our borders closed, particularly since our borders are very porous anyway. But I really don't know. And I think we've gotten to the point where we need to seriously think about opening up the borders a little bit more now, because we can't keep just having our borders closed. When you look at the rest of the world, people have been moving, people have been traveling, but we would definitely need to get the vaccination rates up and to have more testing to make that a reality.
So Andre Edwards, I have a question for you. What happens to the Roxborough Election Hospital? What is that?
Andre, you looking for bacchanal? That is what Andre does.
Dr. Faith, wait a minute. Dr. Faith, you know what we just say here? We have something we just say here. A lot of people in Trinidad have 2 BAc degrees, 2 BAc degrees. Bacchanal and confusion and blame and complain.
So let me explain what happened with that. So we just had an election in January, and just before the election, I think it was maybe a week before the election, they rushed and they commissioned a Roxborough mini hospital, except that it is now in May, and all they've done thus far is transfer the staff from the health center into the hospital facility, and there are no hospital activities happening there just yet. So that is why he asked that question, because it was very clear that the commissioning was done as a political plot. Because if you need emergency services now, you can't go to that facility to get an emergency or any hospital-related services. So that's why he was asking.
Oh, and there's another one here. I don't know, boy. They're coming, boy. They're coming quickly. Kino Sledge Beard says, can you share a little bit about public health and what appears to be a lack of confidence in the authorities' handling of the situation by the general population?
Yeah, I think that traditionally, I think that there is a general a lot of people just don't believe what the government says. unfortunately. And it's unfortunate that there's a political thing happening at a time where there's a pandemic, where you really need people to believe what is said. To be honest, a lot of what was said up front was just absolute nonsense and is part of why people don't believe what is said. But given that, I think what we've not done is actually taken time to create a health education message and a health education plan for this specific disease. Because what people have been relying on, I think what the government has been relying on, for example, is just the press conferences. Listen, after a while, I stopped listening to them because they were just so depressing, so horrible. And if who this is my entire field, couldn't continue listening, the average person is not listening. So the average person is not getting the correct information from the public health professionals, but they are getting incorrect or inaccurate or miscontextualized information from social media and so forth. So we needed to spend a little bit more time having very targeted messages to different groups of people based on who they are and what's important to them and that kind of thing. And we also need, for example, even with this vaccine thing, we needed to be going towards people and not having people come to us to get vaccinated.
Correct,
So
correct,
being
correct.
being in a we have, even though the public service is now at 50% or whatever it is, we should be going into every office, setting up, allowing people to ask questions, because as much as there are the quote unquote anti-vaxxers, which are kind of like the extreme, don't care, don't want to listen, they just have this set belief. Most of the people are not anti-vaxxers. Most of the people just have real questions that they need
Correct.
proper answers to.
Yep.
So setting up an opportunity for people to actually ask those questions and get those questions answered in a way that is not, to be honest, doctors are the worst people to be health educators. Doctors don't speak English. And you need to have set up a system like that where people can actually ask the questions that they need asked and get them answered. And I think a lot of the vaccine hesitancy that we're seeing now would actually shift a bit if we did it that way. But we were just focusing on the press conferences that, unfortunately to be honest, the way that we as a citizen are being buffed at these press conferences is very it turns off people. It's turning you off. You know that when you listen, it's because they're coming to buff you. And that is not a way to get information to people.
Or Dr. Phil, they come in, they might want to jackass the thing, right?
But listen, but even that term is
I
really
know.
them saying, is buff I buffing you?
Yeah. Correct is right. Correct is absolutely
Yeah.
right. I mean, Dr. Faith, you have quite a big question here. Dr. Faith, is UWE or any Caribbean research ongoing in the use of herbs to combat COVID? Boy, we have
I
some
don't know.
fantabulous questions,
Yeah.
You see
Yep.
what you bring out, Dr. Faith, you have done a splendiferous job, I might say.
Thank you. Honestly, I don't know if any of our Caribbean, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I would see though, maybe Jamaica taking up the opportunity to do this, because Jamaica really prides itself, even UA in Jamaica really prides itself with local content, local research and that kind of thing. I am not sure that any of them are doing it, but it is definitely something that needs to happen. Because I am also sure that, quite frankly, we have been surviving because plenty of us drink the fever grass and the,
And
different
the
kind of thing.
Gary like the puncheon.
Well,
Gary does drink here. Gary does go and stand up in front by putting on this. But Dr. Faith, let me say this. I mean, really and truly, we absolutely positively, we like to have you back again, because I mean, the information that you have shared here tonight, I haven't heard that information coming out. Oh, you know what I wanted to ask you, Dr. Faith? You brought up a point about numbers that were misleading, right? At one point in time, they put out a COVID dashboard and they made errors on the numbers. I was the guy who brought to their attention. I brought it to them because it's my party now. You know what I mean? I want to help them. I bought it to them privately. And
Right.
a woman in the group cussed me. She tell me I stink. And my attitude, I have a bad attitude. That was she tell me. My attitude stink. Yes, sir. Privately, in a private group. I said, well, who the hell putting out these numbers? I said, well, you have to get this right. They are the numbers. One thing, I think, was the amount of people. What was it, boy? The amount of people. The
May
amount of
12th, May 10th to the 12th, but the 12th to the 15th, something
Right,
like
right,
that.
right. And was the amount of people vaccinated. One day was 145,000. And then the next day was 141,000. So all of
Right.
a sudden, in thin air, they lose 4,000 people. Right? I don't know, like the 4,000 of you went to Mars all of a sudden.
Oh
A
boy.
spaceship come and take 4,000 people out of Trinidad and Tobago. And I brought it to the attention. The woman told me my attitude stink.
And then
Right?
you had a date of May 76.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
April the 15th to
April
April
76.
76.
Yeah,
That's why I tell you,
so.
a spacecraft come down and give it April the 76. Yeah. So as you say that, you have to get these numbers correct.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, people will think you are misleading the population.
And if you've made an error, you need to just come out and say this was an error. This was
Yeah,
an error. We fixed it and just carry on. Yeah.
yeah, and move on, boy. The other call me stink. Listen, when people, I stink. Listen, I sit down in my kitchen, and I don't talk to my whole family and tell them because again, cuss left, right, and center. I don't cuss, I don't cuss because I grew up in Chumaka Club until I didn't know how to cuss. The cussing me all kind of thing, boy. Right? You know how far they take a doctor fit? They say the problem I have is because I ain't got a contract from the PNM. That's why I do. That's why. Yeah, but I just tell them one thing, and I just say this without any fear of favor. I say the PNM don't put no food on my table. When I have to feed my wife, my son, and my daughter, I don't go by the PNM for them to feed me. I am a supporter of the party, but I'm not a blind supporter of the PNM.
Yeah.
And I am trying to make the party better because the kind of licks they gain only from the Tobago. You understand? And with a young lady like you, and this knowledge you spewing all over the place, I mean, I can't even trip you up.
So Ken, I know there's a person here who's begging for a question to be answered.
Who is that? Let me see.
That's in ADR.
Adrian.
That's what that is. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question now that our Prime Minister has kicked COVID, the fastest in history. Can we send his to create a ketose COVID vaccine to cure the nation? So, but by the way, let me just say, I think this was also a blunder in how the government communicated to the people. One, the day that Dr. Rowley was supposed to take his vaccine was the day he miraculously got COVID. Now, I think he got COVID, but for somebody who already has fears about the vaccines, it was just too coincidental. And the fact that he now is not required to take the vaccine for another couple months is also just too coincidental for somebody who already has COVID, already has vaccine hesitancy. So they really should have spent some time saying to people, one, the reason he cannot take the vaccine right now is because, one, we have limited amounts, because that's actually one of the WHO recommendations. And they tried it, but it didn't work. WHO recommends that if you've had COVID-19, and because we have such limited number of vaccines, because your body is already getting natural immunity, in essence, once you've survived it, you get some level of natural immunity, that it does not make sense for us to use the limited resources of vaccines on somebody who already has a level of natural immunity when we could use that vaccine on somebody else who does not have any immunity at all. So that's one of the reasons why the WHO says that you should not give somebody who has COVID vaccines until just after a while, after a little bit, after a couple months, then, and we know we have more vaccines and all of that, then we could give them. The other thing that's important too is because they did not know how severe his illness could have been, it is actually not wise to give someone any vaccine, not just the COVID vaccine, any vaccine, when they already are sick, because the symptoms that you get from the vaccine could be mild or they could be pretty severe. And if somebody already has COVID-19 and we're not sure what degree of symptoms they would have, you don't want to give them something that could then increase the amount of symptoms they already have. So it's just not wise to give somebody who is COVID positive immediately a vaccine. And so they should have just said this to people.
And Dr. Faith, you are so correct. I have been trying to help them with the public relations. But I just a little black boy from 𝗪𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗏, my father from Tobago, and he just teach at a major university, support the party, and he just, you know, they don't, I just try to help them, but, you know, I don't know, but I will leave that for another day. Dr. Faith, do you think the THA should beg or ask to get our own vaccines?
Yes, I think we should try to find another source or other sources of vaccines. If you recognize this week self, the Minister of Health was asked about our testing capacity in Tobago and why, you know, when is our lab going to be better equipped to test for COVID-19? And the minister's response, well, that is not his responsibility. He's responsible for the RHAs in Trinidad and not the TRHA. It shows that when things get tough, you kind of have to fend for yourself. And the Tobago House of Assembly does have the authority based on the THA Act to go out and do whatever it needs to do for the safety and for the health of the people of Tobago. So I think we should also be searching for other options for vaccines. We should already, for example, you know, contact Cuba and say, hey, when the vaccine or thing, and we know it can be good because it's just Cuba. Cuba is just amazing when it comes to medical stuff. When would that be available? Can we put in an order for a couple, whatever, depending on the numbers coming out and that kind of thing? That is what we should be doing now, and I hope that we are doing it, but then I am just sitting on the outside.
Dr. Faith, I tell you, I think more people have faith in you and they have faith in the current Minister of Health. I just tell you the truth. Yeah, Kino said, ask my question. Kino said, beard. He said, then why you subject yourself to such abuse? What happening there? But Kino, you know, it have some people, you know, there's different type of abuse, you know. But I'll get into that. I'll get into that another day.
Yeah, you know, and I need to tell you that the PDP is, you know, we are warm and we are welcoming to all. Just think about it.
Anslam.
Somebody said, tell him Aisha well, so experience in the PNM. All you calling Aisha Wells the important. Aisha Wells by you listening. Let me see what else to see here. Go, Dr. Faith, boy. Dr. Faith, you need to do community drive educating the people. Most people are scared of vaccination, your explanation and calm methods. You know, boy, who's that? Dr. Faith, that's somebody, you know, Thomas?
Thomas, I am not, that name isn't familiar.
Thomas, Joanne. Josan,
let me see.
I just always get mixed up.
That is why I asked to bring her on, Ansla, because her calm demeanor, her knowledge, you know.
No, I know Joe.
Oh yes, I know the face. Yes, I know. I know. Yes, I know her. I know her. Yes, yes.
Gary, tell Senator Lyde will be dealing with him a little bit. Dr. Faith, I have to be honest with you. I'm being very honest with you now. You see what you have done here tonight? It is fantabulous, splendiferous, tremendiferous, right? Marvelous, right? The information you have shared tonight, right? It's about 3 years of information from all them press conference they had. All the press conference they have, where they're telling we have about 4,000 beds, right? A year ago, we could manage up to 4,000 beds in the healthcare system. Then when things get hard, we could only get 542 beds.
Yep, hands in the air.
Yeah, you know, it's like, and you know what? I just always say this. I got married 33 years ago, and my mother-in-law told me before I got married that a liar has no memory, right? So what she was trying to tell me is that if I tell the truth, I don't have to remember anything.
You don't have to remember it, exactly.
Right. So I rather just tell the truth, so I don't have to remember it. So when you tell people, in 2020, you have up to 4,000 beds in the system. And then when things get harsh, right, in order for you to make it look a little different, you tell them they have 542 beds. You know, you're jackassing the thing. All right. You know, all right, let me see what else here. All right, yes. So one more other comment, Dr. Faith. Let me see. Yes, Adrian boy, Dr. Faith. You know what Adrian say? Dr. Faith is simply amazing. Listen to this. There's a tune by oh God, look, I'm forgetting. Tina Turner.
Mm.
The name of the tune it says Simply the Best. Dr. Faith, I have to be honest with you. All right, look, somebody else coming. Hold on.
Right.
So somebody has a question. What is the impact of the period between person receiving the first dose of the vaccine and the second being longer than that advised by the manufacturers?
Yeah. So what they've done is actually looked at different periods, and the different vaccines, the ones that have 2 doses, your second dose needs to be at a different time for depending on which vaccine it is. So what they've recognized is that for the specific vaccine, to get the maximum amount of antibodies, you should take your first dose and then your second dose at a certain period. That is the best possible time. I have personally not seen any data about what happens if you take it long after. I'm guessing it would have a slightly negative effect because they've already done the research and says, well, 6 to 8 weeks is the optimal time, or 8 to 12 weeks is the optimal time, based on trying it a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and realizing that the amount of antibodies you get when you do it in that particular time is the best of the options. So I would recommend that we try to keep to the schedule, although I am seeing some data coming out now that, for example, the AstraZeneca, you're actually seeing a higher amount of antibodies than they expected, even after just the first dose, which is amazing. You still need to take the second dose, but they're still in real life situations. They are seeing where you get a higher amount of antibodies from just the first dose, more than they expected in the experimental setting. So I don't know the answer in terms of exactly what would happen, but I know that when they give the timelines, it's because they've done tests at different intervals, and that's the best interval for that particular vaccine. And again, it's different. So Pfizer is a different time period, Moderna is a different time period, AstraZeneca is a different time period, and so on.
So
And I
somebody
can't remember what they are now, to be
right.
honest.
Latoya just asked, which is safer, AstraZeneca or Sinopharm?
They are both, I would say they are both safe. The two vaccines use different technologies. The AstraZeneca uses a technology where they use a different kind of virus to put to get the information and to get your immune response. And the Sinopharm uses the SARS-CoV-2, the coronavirus virus that they have in essence killed, inoculated. So both are safe. They're just using two different techniques to get your immune response. I would honestly, any virus, any vaccine you can get to is better than no vaccine.
Yeah, and Dr. Faith, that is so serious. I am one of those who had shared the information regarding Seychelles, whereas that they had vaccinated about 70% of the population, and 60% was vaccinated with Sinopharm, and there was a reoccurrence of COVID-19 individuals. But when I see what's going on in Trinidad and Tobago, to me, at this point in time, it's better to take something
That nothing. Yeah,
than nothing.
exactly.
That's just. And I think Latoya said something that Latoya, this is right. There is a video with Sinopharm that it says it has 73 side effects. There was actually an article, and actually I have the article in here as well too, about
Yeah.
73 side effects. But
So
however, go ahead, Dr. Faith.
yeah, let me just address the side effects. Remember when I started, I was saying that the information that is available publicly now is the information that you had to go into a journal to read before. When you're doing any kind of medication, you are required by whatever is the authority giving authorization, so FDA or EMA or whoever it is, you are required by law to highlight every single thing that happens to any member, any participant who took that thing under your watch, right? So it does not matter what medication it is, they have to write the very, 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 very long list. Now, it could be that of the million people or of the 1,000 people, one person had that side effect. They are required by law to write it as a possible side effect. So I would need to look at not just the list of the 70 how much side effects. And by the way, many of the other medications that we take have lists of side effects that are equally long. But I would like to see what percentage of the people actually had the different side effects, because it could literally be one person had something, so they had to write it in. So
No,
again, mhm,
no. Senator Leiter, we're going to bring Senator Leiter in just now. Senator Leiter asking you a question, Dr. Faith.
mhm.
What, Dr. Faith, what is your view on, is it ivermectin?
Ivermectin.
Ivermectin as a treatment for severe cases of COVID-19.
Right. So this is a medication that has been approved by the FDA for other diseases, right? And it is now being used kind of experimentally as a possible option for treating people with COVID-19. I am not sure what the data is showing just yet, but we have a situation where we kind of trying everything, to be honest. That is what's happening when it comes to actual treatment. We're kind of just trying everything to see how it works. And because right now, the main treatments for COVID-19 are not really treating COVID. It's actually just treating the different symptoms. So if you have an issue with your lung, you get treatment for the issue with your lung. If you have an issue with your heart, you get treatment for the issue with your heart. That is what the approved treatment protocols are right now. So I think they're really just throwing different things at it to see how it works. I am not in a position now to say whether I think it's a good thing yet or not, because I just haven't seen the data to say one thing or the other just yet.
Yeah. You know, I don't know if Tommy or Diana wants to, but Dr. Faith, I would like to see if, at least, once a week, if you could give us 5 minutes of your time so you can give us an update, because I have to be honest with you. I have to be very honest with you. I like to keep it real. You have been very, very forthcoming, very impressive with the information that you have shared. You have allayed my fears in things that I used to be stating, with respect to Sinopharm and AstraZeneca. Right? And you have cleared that up for me. And I'm sure you can do that for many other people across the country and in Tobago, where you are from, to letting people know that, listen, times are really tough now and we can't be playing games, and it's better to get something than not have anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Diana and Tommy has anything they want to say.
Tommy, go ahead.
Dr. Faith, I thank you for allaying the fears that I've had with the vaccine, because you have now made me a believer that these vaccines are going to work without a doubt. And I really think that your name, Faith, is no accident.
Yeah, but no accident in truth, but no joke. No joke. And let me say this.
My parents and grandparents for that one.
Let me say this. Diana said to me, she said, Sam, we like to bring Dr. Faith on. I said, God, Diana, go ahead now, man. When Diana asked, you had here to Diana with shit. You know what I mean? Because, she don't have no political allegiance. So,
Nope.
but she asks, right? So she said, Dr. Faith is very, very good. And Dr. Faith, really and truly, right, you have done a tremendous job. And I appreciate you taking the time to come here and give us this information. And if you want, if you don't mind, every once in a while, maybe once a week, if you could spare 5 minutes with us, just to give out information. And if you want to talk about your party too, you can talk about your party too, So don't think you could, you don't have to come on and only talk about all the medical things. You can talk about your party too, and you can talk about things you're doing with your party too. It's okay, right? And I like to keep it real. I'm being real. You understand? Because at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, politics is involved in everything. Everything involves politics. So and here someone else says, Thomas Josan says, me too. I'm actually seeking information to educate my mom as well, encouraging her to get vaccinated. So a lot of people want that encouragement. People don't want to hear, people don't just want to hear, oh, you go out and take the vaccine, because you know we want to make sure all the people vaccinated. We want information behind that.
Yeah.
You know, and as you say, when you come with a little, send somebody else who could get the message across now. So here is
Yeah.
someone else says, Dr. Faith. All right, let me see. Dr. Faith, but you have plenty questions, but Dr. Faith, are you aware of any studies and or information being collected in Trinidad and Tobago of the performance of the vaccine being used here, given the lifestyle diseases in Trinidad and Tobago?
So I understand that UWI may be doing something, maybe collecting some of that data in collaboration with the Ministry of Health and so forth. And I heard some official, I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it was Dr. Mitchell, who is our primary care manager in Tobago. I think I heard her also say that they were just about to start collecting data of some sort. I'm not sure what data they are collecting. But so my hope is that, yes, there is data collection happening and that we would be able to do our own analysis and so on in Trinidad and Tobago. But I can't confirm. This is just what I've heard in the, said publicly.
Yeah. And you know, it have people saying, boy, look, people saying, yes, she cleared it up for me too. You cleared plenty things for people, boy, people who had all kind of hesitant. And I know it's funny, yeah? In this short period of time, Dr. Faith, and when we come into the village, we always tell people, and Dr. Faith, I have to say this, we have to say this to you. We have people that tell us, oh, all you only had 10 viewers. And this is what I tell them. Only had 10 viewers, you know. And this is what I tell them. I said, if one out of those 10 viewers, we can share information to make those people's lives better or to make them more informed, that is more important than having hundreds of viewers. And all you're talking about is the two BACs, bacchanal and confusion and blame and complaint.
True.
Right? So Dr. Faith, you know, you have to get hard questions too, you know. Dr. Faith said, are you vaccinated?
Yes, I am. I got my first dose. What was it? Maybe 2 weeks ago. No, it wasn't last week. It was a week before. I got my first dose of AstraZeneca because that was the only option in Tobago. It was a process. The first day I was fine. By the evening, I had a headache, and I just took some paracetamol, Panadol. The following day, though, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. And I am actually being very honest about this because I don't want people to take the vaccine, experience it, and then think, oh my God, I'm going to die. So the second day, I felt like I had, as a matter of fact, it kind of reminded me of when I had chikungunya. I don't know if many people know what that felt like.
Yeah. I don't have it, but I understand.
Yeah. So I had body pains, headache, I had a fever, but that only lasted for 1 day. By the third day, I went back to just having a little pain by my eyes, like my eyes just felt like it was straining. But by 4 days after, I was fine. But even though on the Thursday, I was thinking to myself, what in the hell are you doing? Why did you do this kind of thing? I also knew enough to recognize that the fact that I was experiencing those things was actually proof that the vaccine was working, because that is what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to mimic you getting sick so that your body has the immune response. So all of those things happening was my body recognizing the vaccine and actually starting the process of creating antibodies. So, that day was uncomfortable, but I think it was worth it.
Dr. Faith, it says, Mike Smith asks a question. Dr. Faith, boy, plenty question. Why is doctor not on a radio station in Trinidad to give them hope?
I don't know. I am trying my best to do what
Dr.
I can on the island of Tobago.
Dr. Faith, 3 letters.
3 letters.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
You know the 3.
You say it. I wouldn't say it. You say it.
Bacchanal
PDP.
It was kind of funny that because I've been speaking out about this since the beginning, I did get, I call it honorable mention by the Minister for Health many months ago. I had said something about what, I had disagreed with a process or a policy. I can't remember what it was. And he did talk about the doctor from Tobago. And I felt very, very proud that he at least heard of, what I said and had acknowledged me in the press conference, some doctor from Tobago.
Yeah, yeah. You call it the doctor from Tobago, like he didn't know your name.
No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no, which was fine.
yeah, yeah. So Shelly Ann Lewis says, this thing is real. I can tell you guys, be safe out
See,
there, please. Then
certainly, yeah.
yeah, then this is Joseph Lindau said she's the real Minister of Health, right? Then Donald Hazel is new also. They need to collect data on side effects currently reported by individuals. They're dismissed and linked to the individual chronic illness or past injury.
Yeah, that is important. And I think the one thing that is, well, of the other things, but one critical thing that's missing from the process now is that there should have been an electronic mechanism where people could just say, this is how I'm feeling, and just
Yeah,
plug it into an app or something.
yeah.
Yeah,
And Dr. Faith, I keep saying this over and over and over,
yeah,
right? I'm a supporter of the government, but as far as innovation is concerned, there's no innovative ideas. Zero.
yeah, yeah.
Zero. Right? And when you try to help them with innovative ideas, just want to run you. First thing they just do, we call it the 4Ds. They just dismiss you. They just destroy you. They try to destroy you. They try to discredit you. And when they cannot do either of the three, they try to demonize you. You know, so that is true. I mean, ideas, they need to be open to ideas. Somebody else says, when you get vaccinated, do the nurses check up on you? When you get vaccinated, the nurses check up on you?
Yes, so I actually got 2 phone calls. The following day, I got a call from a nurse just basically doing that, and this following day after, so by day 3, the nurse also called to say, you know, how are you? How are you feeling? What are your symptoms? Just making sure everything was good. So that is part of the policy here, and they did actually do that. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Faith, I want to say to you, we thank you so very kindly for taking this time to come in here. I can tell that this life here with you has been the biggest life that we have had since we have started doing this program here. It has been the most watched live, the most liked live, and it's because of you and the information that you are sharing. So that means to say that you have a lot of information to share with the people of Trinidad and Tobago. A lot of information. Before you go, someone said this. I don't know what this means, boy. What does this mean?
Oh, that no, but if you don't know what that means, are you really a member of that party? Are you?
The customer store, the customer. Oh, yeah. They spell it with a K, right? They spell it with a K. Oh, God. From the information available, it seems that the Cuban vaccine is a very good vaccine. What's really the challenge whereby the Cuban vaccine is not being made available because they're communists?
It's Cuba. Yeah, yeah. That's
Cuba,
gonna be an issue.
yeah. Them they don't want Cuba coming on no vaccine and the best vaccine. You know, them the what that they matter. All right, let me go through quick here. It's body pain that's Latoya says is the body pain that's frightening me.
So yes, but body pain for one day versus having COVID.
Yeah.
Having COVID is like, believe me, take the body pain for one day. It's worth it. It's definitely worth it.
Never guy myself says Minister of Health in Tobago, but you know much minister you get plenty.
Anyway, thank you.
Yeah. That's what John Pope said. John Pope said, time for you to be a PDP boy. Forget the PNM boy. John Pope boy. Oh, God. Like say, hearing you say those 4Ds and still support, you need a referral to Dr. Phil.
You know.
You know what to do? Let Dr. Phil write my prescription. Dr. Phil, someone says, how good is vitamin D3 50,000? I gotta tell you, Dr. Phil, you don't have to answer that. That for me, that is fantabulous. Dr. Phil, you could answer now.
So let me be 100% honest. When we are using vitamins or any other supplement, we have to recognize that there is only so much our body can utilize in a short space of time. So if you realize, for example, you take a multivitamin and it is, you realize when you go to the bathroom, your urine is yellow, that is because a lot of what you took is actually just flushing out of your system. Generally, you should try to get your vitamins in food. If you cannot get them in food, then yes, you should take multivitamins. But you also should not go crazy with large doses of vitamins, because then that can then could damage your kidney and all of that stuff, right? So the aim is you need to be healthy, and you need to be healthy generally, because people who are generally healthy are much better at surviving COVID-19 generally. But I would not want to identify any specific multivitamin or any particular vitamin or mineral or anything as a cure-all or as a safety thing. You just need to be generally healthy. I see my Auntie Verna. Verna is actually my great aunt.
From
And
Pittsburgh,
from
boy. From
Pittsburgh,
Pittsburgh.
yes,
Verna,
yes,
welcome, boy.
yes, yes. And
Oh,
she actually, I lived with her when I went to school in Pittsburgh. That's
oh
where I
yeah.
went to school.
Yeah, actually, my son went to school in Pennsylvania too. Wonderful,
Okay.
wonderful. At least he's in Pennsylvania right now.
Okay.
The Jean says, Dr. Faith, you are well liked. She's so brilliant. Thanks, Dr. Faith P. is your continued blessing.
Thank you. Thank you.
And somebody else says, best representative in Bell Garden, Goodwick. Very intelligent woman. Here, love you, Dr. Faith B. Israel. Keep
Thank you,
safe.
Shelly Ann. Thank you. And
Yeah.
praying for you and your situation too and everything, Shelly Ann. And I still
Yeah.
have your
Yeah. You know, Anna, Auntie Vona made another comment. And your autobiography should be started. True, you know, Auntie Vona, I know kicks, you know, I real true boy. True thing there. But Dr. Faith, and we have Senator Leiter, we're gonna give you as much time as possible too. Right? But I gotta say that this is the first time we have Dr. Faith, and she was so fantabulous. Trisha also said, Dr. Faith, always there to educate us. Thank you, Dr. Faith. Lord, continue to cover her under your blood. I mean,
Thank you, Trisha.
So,
Thanks.
So Dr. Faith, what we're gonna do, right? We're gonna go for a quick break, and then we just ask you to wrap up, you know, because we taken a lot of your time, and we appreciate you very kindly. And you know, absolutely, you know, we'd like to have you back. And if there are other members of your party who you think you would like to share with us, you know, we already know we had, you know, the leader here already. He has joined us already. Nicely joined us. You know, I sent them a message, and he was very, very generous with us too as well, you know, to join us. So look, we have other people here saying, good, nice you bringing this lovely woman on the show to make me jealous.
Oh boy.
Josan said, my son asked me about the use of vitamin C just Monday. I'm happy for this question.
Yeah.
That's Rose.
Yeah. So you can tell them what vaccine you want to take. I don't know.
Top of the hour coming up, Anselm.
Okay, yeah. So what we're gonna do, folks? Dr. Faith, stick and stay with us. We're gonna go for a quick break, folks, and we'll be right back after this message. Of course, we have with us Dr. Faith B. Israel out of Tobago. She's also a PDP member, and you know, in the village, we welcome anybody in the village. Whether you are PDP, we can't get no PNM people, but whether you are PDP, a UNC, a COP, a DLP, they still are DLP. Wherever party you're from, we welcome you in the village.
Barbados have DLP.
Yeah, all right, we'll be right back.
You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, Maplewood, New Jersey, broadcasting from Essex County. You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM.
So, Dr. Faith, we want to thank you so much, you know, and any closing words?
Sure. Well, it's an honor being here. Thanks for asking me to be here. My aim is to provide as much accurate information as possible. Finally, I'm using some of all of that long schooling that I went through, so it's an honor being here. Again, just remember that, yes, this is difficult. As much as I am here and I am calm and so forth, I am also very sick and tired of COVID, and I need this to be over quickly. So I understand the kinds of frustration that people are going through, but we all kind of have to rally together to come through this. follow the guidelines, the simple washing hands, the wearing your mask, the staying home if you're sick, social distancing, taking the vaccine, all of those things put together is what is going to get us out of this. So let's just do what we need to do. It's going to be difficult. It has been difficult. A lot of people are having a really hard time. But together we could all survive this. Together we could all get through this. And I can't wait to actually be able to go outside again. I'm sure everybody else has the same feeling. So it's a pleasure being here.
Right. Dr. Faith, we have the last question here before you go. Someone says, what will be your take on someone with circulation problems taking the vaccine?
So if you have circulation problems, it depends on what is your circulation problem. For something like that, I would actually recommend that you speak to your physician specifically about your issue. I would not want to give a pronouncement here without having more information. But definitely speak to your physician, because based on what it is, the response might be different based on this specific circumstance.
So Dr. Faith, Diane, you want to thank Diane for bringing you here into the village. You have done a fantabulous job. You have shared a lot of information. You have allayed a lot of people's fears. You have cleared up some information for many people. So, we want to thank you, for as the future Minister of Health. I mean, the future member of the PDP party in Tobago.
Dr. Faye, I also want to say we may have 3 or 4 viewers on here, but we have many listeners on the radio station. So you're being heard.
Right. This
you're
is
being
Facebook,
heard.
But we have the radio station running.
Yeah. As well. So you're being heard. Your word, yeah.
So your word is going far and wide, and we appreciate you. Thank you so very kindly.
Thank you very much for. Okay. Have a blessed evening, man.
Same to you.
Thank you. All right. So, folks, let's quickly bring in Senator 𝗪𝗬 in here now. Oh, you've been waiting patiently. Senator 𝗪𝗬?
Yes, good evening. How are you?
I want to apologize to you because, you see the conversation was going. What we like to do in the village, we like to share information with people so people can have some information. We don't just want to go on the bacchanal and confusion alone and, the blame and complain. How it does go sometimes.
Well, let me say to you that is the best time I've ever spent waiting.
Your mic a little low.
Because I learned you hearing me?
Yeah, we're hearing you now. We're hearing you.
Yes. Because I learned a significant amount of information tonight, and I would like to congratulate Dr. Faith for presenting what I consider to be a very stable, controlled, I'm not a doctor, so I can't say accurate, but a well thought out presentation, something, educating the listeners here tonight, something I think we've been missing in a very big way. I almost want to say that I'd like to recommend that the government bring her on for their weekly press tortures. Sorry, I meant to say press conference. But their weekly press tortures because Dr. Faith, what she did for myself and many of us tonight was that she alleviated a lot of our fear. She brought sense and reason to the process of vaccine of taking the vaccine, taking away that fear of taking the vaccine, because it can be anyone in the country right now feeling that fear. I am one in particular who feels the fear of taking the vaccine. Correct. And for me, this meant a lot tonight listening to Dr. Faith. But you see, the thing about it is that I have come accustomed to a government that uses fear to control a population. And I'm sorry if I'm taking it to the politics, but I really do have to, because all it takes is some very clear education on the COVID-19 vaccines, clear education on the rollout, clear education on the pandemic, the do's, the don'ts, and not, as Dr. Faith said, as what we also say, not a prime minister coming and buffing the nation. That's what Dr. Faith said. That's what I also agree. I too stopped listening to the weekly press conferences, because exactly as Dr. Faith said, it's like the weekly buffing conferences, and And there was a joke or a meme going around that said, if you want to listen to what are the new rules or what is the decision of the government, and you want to listen to it at a 2 p.m. conference, come on at 3 p.m. and you'll hear it. because you have to take 1 hour of doping, 1 hour of blame everyone else but the government, blame the citizens, blame the countries, the big countries, the superpowers who are holding back the vaccines, jealously guarding the vaccines and won't share them with us. Blame everyone except those in authority whose duty it is that they swore on, whether they swore on the Bhagavad Gita, the Bible, whether whether they just put their hands up, they swore to serve the people and to protect the people. So there must be some level of responsibility that one takes when you take that oath. When the people have entrusted you with their vote and put you into power, you, at the end of the day, are the final person held responsible for the state of our country, the state of economy, the state of your health system. So I also join in with Dr. Faith in saying that I've stopped going on to the weekly abuse sessions, and I just wait for the summary after by 4 o'clock to see what's going on. But again, I just want to congratulate Dr. Faith for an amazing contribution. And anytime she's coming back on, I want to come back on and listen to her again. And I think, yes. So you know, and I think it is people like Dr. Faith who take sacrificing themselves and their professions to throw their hat in politically to help make a change in Trinidad and Tobago. It is people like that are taking that risk with their profession. It is people like that, which is probably the reason why they are ended up with this 6-6 tie in Tobago. And likely, if they go back to the polls, the PNM might find themselves exiting.
You know, I want to say this, sir. This is the first time that I have met Dr. Faith. And sometimes, boy, in times of crisis, you need some calming, soothing kind of figures in order to bring information to the public. And the information she brought to the public was so succinct, clearly, not emotional, but it was really, 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 really great. She allayed my fears. I had a big question about AstraZeneca and Sinopharm being the only vaccine in the Caribbean and in the third world countries in Latin America and Africa and so on. And she explained it. So to me, in times like this, I will think the government will say, we have an educated person. Yes, she's a PDP, but we have to put politics aside, because at the end of this is all about country, right? The country is at its worst with respect to COVID-19 right now. We put out a statistics here that we didn't intend to, but we was doing a comparison. One day, today's Thursday, Tuesday, Trinidad and Tobago had more positive cases of COVID-19 than New Jersey. There's 8 million people in the population of Jersey. There's 1.4 million people in the population of Trinidad and Tobago. That's a big, 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 big difference. A big, big difference. So something seemed to be going wrong in Trinidad and Tobago. What do you think is going wrong?
Well, look, I mean, similar to what you have just said there, I completely and wholeheartedly agree with. There comes a point in time when we really have to put politics aside and we really have to put country first. Now, when Gary called me this afternoon, it was a last minute call because I was rushing to close down my business place, which is a food distribution business place. And so we're rushing to close everything down to ensure that, we got everyone home safe in their houses well before the curfew. And so I was rushing to get here. So I've literally walked in my door, put on the camera and listened to Dr. Faith, being here completely unprepared to speak. But in a sense, when you put Trinidad and Tobago first, when you consider politics secondary to your nation, you don't need to have a script to sit down here and talk tonight and to speak about what's important to the nation. So Gary and myself discussed coming on to speak about the issue of porous borders and the risks that poses to us, especially now in this pandemic, when our borders should be closed, when there is a health crisis at hand right now, and when we see the introduction of the Brazilian P1 variant come into our country, a variant that has been ravaging South America, and now clearly contributing towards the ravage in Trinidad today. I think you said today was, 558 cases today, 10 deaths. I'm losing count, 300 and something deaths now, more than half of it in this month alone. We are bordering on almost 20,000 cases for a population of 1.4 million people. And I say 1.4 million people very guarded, because I am actually proposing for your consumption that we possibly have 1.6 million people in this country. And that is because we are bordering close to 200,000 illegal immigrants in Trinidad and Tobago. So I want to, if it's okay with you, I want to get straight into the matter of the porous borders. And let me say, everything I say here, I want to put UNC and PNM politics aside. I want to say what the reality of the situation is, the fact that the government has not responded to these allegations that have been presented to the population, and the fact that we can lock down our borders as many times as we want to we will lock our country down in a state of emergency. We can lock down businesses. We can lock down our economy. And we can do all of that to flatten the curve. But unless we secure our porous borders, when we reopen our country, those who are in a position to reopen their businesses, those who have not, their businesses have not crashed, that they have not lost their homes, their livelihoods, everything that they own to the bank that is not taking any mercy, that's not been pressured by the government to take any form of mercy on those people who are struggling now to pay their bills and to pay their loans and so on. If those companies open back up, and should most of our population get back to work, we will be right back to square one unless this government secures the porous borders. Now, we've been locked down for somewhat of about going on now to 14, 15 months now. I'm losing track of how long we've been locked down.
It's about.
But we've been locked down for that time.
Yeah.
Our airports have been closed. Our seaports closed to humans coming in from outside of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. There has been thousands of our citizens over the course of this last year and 4 months that have been robbed of their constitutional rights to return to their country, of their birth, of their citizenship. But you don't have to be born here. But you could have come here from the age of 1 and lived your life in Trinidad and contributed to the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. And so whether you're born here or whether you're not, if you're a citizen of this country, it is your constitutional right to return to your country. These rights were taken away. And a bureaucratic and an odious process was put in place to return our citizens, which has taken 1 year and 4 months and still ongoing, where a minister, one human, one single person, not a committee to bring transparency, but one minister, and maybe Jelani as well too, but one minister had the right to approve whether you could come or go into the country of your citizenship. And when you would have to come back, you'd have to take your PCR test before leaving. Your PCR test when you hit the ground, and at your expense, unless you want to be thrown into one of those institutions where they serve you dry bread, old crickets.
Kiss bread. You get kiss.
Well, dry kiss bread, right? piece of Vienna sausage and so on, and a 2 chunk of tomato and two grain of lettuce, right? You would have to now pay from your pocket to stay 14 days quarantine in a hotel. And let's not even mention about the journey coming to Trinidad, having to stop off in Barbados or wherever else in the world you have to stop off, and the hotels you have to pay to be there. That cost that was incurred by the citizens just to get back home to their houses, to their businesses, to their wife, if the wife's still there, if the husband's still there, to the dog, if the dog gets starved and dead, right? That process that we had to go through. How could we see a country locked down, a curve flattened to the point where a prime minister invites everyone to Tobago, right? A curve flattened where we see very little testing taking place before an election, a massive amount of, I think 8,000 and something tests before the election. After the election, 22,000 tests they reached up to 22,000 within weeks after the election. So they started the test after the election. But we didn't have this level of spread, community spread of COVID and the amount of deaths we had today. And with the process that our citizens had to take to come back in, it is very hard to think that the government can cast blame upon these citizens who have already been through so much and who have already toiled to get back home. So the question is,
Senator, what do you think is the cause for the massive spread of COVID-19 in Trinidad and Tobago today?
Well, look, there's not simply one cause. It is clear that Trinidadians, we sometimes have a challenge with our discipline. You know, we take things lightly. God is at Trini. You know, boy, my father could not possibly have this. My brother couldn't possibly have it. So I could take off my mask. I could let down my hair. Well, I don't have any hair, but you could let down your hair and you could relax. You could party, you could ramage, you could go to Tobago, and so on, or whatever the case may be. You could do all those things, right? You get this false sense of comfort because you have a government that's telling you, we were #1 in the world for COVID. Don't worry. We have everything under control. Oxford, a couple of students in Oxford told us we were #1 in the world. So there was this false sense of comfort coupled by a lack of education. I think Dr. Faith spoke at length towards that. And I think you also spoke towards that. Lack of education, lack of understanding about the dangers, a false sense of comfort due to lack of testing, and a government that simply praise themselves pre an election. So most certainly, there is some blame that the citizens have to take for that, of course. We are not perfect. But let me ask you a question. When you look at the numbers of COVID-19 happening in Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, and in Venezuela, it was over 140 something or 50 something thousand cases of COVID-19. Those that were actually tested, because as you all know, the Venezuela economy has completely crashed. The social services have completely crashed in Venezuela. So it is quite likely that there is very little testing happening there. There's very little options for the millions of persons who are now infected with COVID or suffering from COVID. So the true number must be astronomically higher than 140, 150,000. And then you have a Brazilian P1 variant that made its way to the Venezuelan, to Venezuela, to the country. And then you have a minister of health who came to the Senate, a Senate I sat in. And when asked by an independent senator, Senator Paul Charles, I believe it was, where was the first case of the Brazilian P1 variant? And the Minister of Health answered very clearly for the nation to hear that it was found in an illegal Venezuelan immigrant. And what we are seeing in Trinidad and Tobago today is almost a free flow of illegal immigrants coming into our country. Now, because of our porous, broken down borders, Now, I want to say to you that I am not xenophobic. The party I represent is not xenophobic. We have nothing against Venezuelans. I have lots of Venezuelan friends. I have family members living in Venezuela. And to be honest with you, I am sympathetic to the situation in Venezuela because they are truly and sincerely going through a disaster in their economy, a disaster with COVID, and a disaster with the social systems in the country. They are struggling to survive. So naturally, humans struggling to survive, they're going to look at their options. What can they do? And there are many flowing into Colombia, many flowing into Brazil. It is estimated 17 million Venezuelans have left Venezuela into neighboring countries or to wherever they can find a new home. And Trinidad is only one of the many countries that we are seeing this happening. But the problem here is that it is almost as though there is no attempt to try to manage or to try to limit the inflow and influx of illegal immigrants coming into this country. And if you have a situation where you have a population in Venezuela that has an extremely high rate of COVID and the Brazilian variant, and all of these persons are flowing in, and when they arrive into a country, unlike the citizens that have to go through the PCR tests, that have to go through the 14 days quarantine, they're walking into the country. Those who are not caught, now listen to this part. Those who are not caught when coming into, it's two main points that they're coming in. So it's the south of Trinidad, the south coast of Trinidad, and the north to northwestern coast of Trinidad. So those are the two main areas. And when they come into Trinidad, for those who are not caught, the vast majority who are not caught as they brave the seas, some of them dying on the journey, drowning, but those who make it and they're not caught running onto the beaches, they come into to Trinidad and Tobago. They now are immersed into our population. They are now walking amongst our population without COVID testing, without quarantine, seeking employment in the same manufacturing plants that locals work in the same restaurants, supermarkets, mechanic shops, bars. So they are coming there, and I mean some other places of ill repute as well. Believe it or not,
but sometimes I ask you a question. Isn't there some responsibility though on the business community who are hiring these people to at least test these people before they give them jobs, knowing that they don't have no legal documentation to get jobs in Trinidad and Tobago? Isn't it upon them too as well to do something? Because I mean, you know, we can blame and blame and blame, but you know, to me, you know, putting all the blame on the government, I don't think that's accurate. I think there are other people, including the population as well, who needs to take responsibilities for their action. You know, and business, you own a business, so if somebody comes to you and the person can present you with any documentation that they're legal in Trinidad, you know, and they're speaking Spanish, it's highly likely that person is from Venezuela. So if you hire that person, you are putting all those other employees. I'm just saying, I'm not saying literally. I'm just making an example. If you hire that person and you are putting those other employees in jeopardy because you don't know what that person brought in. But maybe the business is seeing that I can pay this person a certain amount of money, which can save me money. Right? And at the end of the day, when you have a business, it's about profitability.
No, let me tell you, absolutely, and you're right. I mean, there are unscrupulous business people in Trinidad and Tobago, like in any other country. I mean, I don't think there's a country where the entire population is pious. So most certainly, there are many unscrupulous businessmen and women in the country. First of all, there's a very big underground business community in the places of ill repute, otherwise known as brothels, right? And I mean, they are operating illegally. There are many bars who are operating without licenses. So yes, there are many business places that have unscrupulous men and women. So no, absolutely, I'm not at all casting the entire blame on the government, right? But there's a matter of supply and demand. If there is no supply of these illegal immigrants in the country, because our borders are protected, then there won't be this risk of persons coming in who are not tested, not quarantined, and that fall in the hands of these wolves in Trinidad. And let me say something, that point you raised there takes me to a very, very serious situation that's happening, especially in the south of Trinidad. Because here's what, for the minority of those who are actually detained, so you've been caught in the water by the Coast Guard, you've been caught on the beach by the CTPS or whatnot, there is no official detention center that is in place in the south of Trinidad and Tobago to place illegal immigrants, to properly place them in a humane manner, and with staff with proper PPE equipment, personal protective equipment, COVID testing, and so on, and to quarantine them. So what is going on is that when they are detained, they are taken to the nearest police station in the south of Trinidad and Tobago. So if they are detained in 𝗪𝗏𝗏, 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏, wherever they are held, Point Fortin, they are taken to the nearest police station. They are around, or they are mingling around the police officers and the local detainees, someone who could be, sobering up after being arrested for drinking and driving, right? But they are commingled amongst police officers and detainees. No COVID testing, no quarantine. And then, this is the interesting part, immigration is called to attend to them at the police station. If the immigration does reach at the police station, they are issued a document called an order of supervision. This order of supervision, and let me put it on into basic layman terms for everyone to understand. This order of supervision basically is given to the illegal immigrant, with the only requirement being that you must return to the immigration division or the office of the immigration to check in with them once per month, once every month. And then the door is opened and they are released into our country.
That's it.
So remember I told you supply and demand. If they're getting through our borders undetected, there's a supply. If they are being released from police stations with an order of supervision in the Southland, then again, they're on the street. And they're put on the street without a place to live, food. Most of them don't understand English.
But Senator, there is no type of testing. Before I go, let me get in this quick question. Somebody says, what is the evidence you have to support the position being put forward that there's a free flow of illegal immigrants into Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, first to begin with, about 4 years ago, the Commissioner of Police, along with the Minister of National Security, had indicated that there were 120,000 illegal immigrants in the country. Now, there was a press conference that the Minister of National Security, the new Minister of National Security, Minister Fitzgerald Hines, there was a press conference held somewhat of about 2 weeks ago. That was when he made the first press conference to actually admit to the nation that there was a problem of illegal immigrants coming into the country. So the minister admitted it. The Commissioner of Police indicated there was 120,000 that had come in some 4 years ago. There were 16,500 and something illegal immigrants that were registered by the government some almost 2.5 years ago. And there have been countless videos, countless pictures, countless documents from citizens across the length and breadth of our country. I myself have personally been down to Chaguaramas, where Venezuelan fishing boats are sailing into the waters of Trinidad and Tobago. They are not being stopped by the Coast Guard. They are sailing right up to our jetties with Venezuelans frequenting the boat, right in between Pier 1 and power boats and national fisheries. They are walking off the boats, no quarantine, no COVID testing, no immigration, no customs and excise. They are walking into the Massy stores. They are jumping into cars and going off the Price Mart and so on. There is a trade happening between Trinidad and Venezuela of goods being purchased here and carried back to Venezuela, and it's going back and forth. There's countless amounts of evidence. It is undisputed that that is what's happening right now. And then one only has to be living in Trinidad. Just live in Trinidad alone. I mean, forget any documentation by the government, because there won't be much documentation by the government, by the way. There won't be much, because they are illegal. They are in the country illegally. The government will not have a record. But all you have to do is go through the length and breadth of Trinidad and Tobago. And I did, and during the election campaign, we did that. And in almost every street, almost every neighborhood, every bar you walk into, every supermarket you walk into, there are Venezuelans working here that did not come through the airport in this country.
Let me ask you something, Senator Leida. What would you guys have done differently? Well, what would you guys have done differently with respect to the borders? I mean, you know, we are like trying to look into a crystal ball here. I don't know if Diana and Gary, if you guys have any questions. You know, Diana?
Right. Well, let me answer. Sorry, I want to answer that question. That's a brilliant question you just posed to me, because I actually answered that question 2 Sundays ago on a press conference. I answered that question. Okay. So if you want me, I'll go ahead with that.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, leading up to the campaign, right, on the 2010 campaign, when the entire country knew that there was a problem at the borders, we knew there was a free flow of illegal immigrants coming in and out, right, through hundreds of different bits of evidence. We presented in our manifesto something that the current Prime Minister made fun of, joked about it. He came on our platform, he laughed at it, he joked about it, and he ridiculed us on it. And we spoke about a security dome to protect our country, the borders, the land, air, and sea of our country. The Prime Minister came and he made fun. He said, we are going to build something out of brick or iron. He said, we will have to get dome. He made fun and he said, we have to get dome builders. We have to get dome mechanics, dome masons, dome janitors. Made a big joke about it. Now today we are witnessing something called an Iron Dome in Israel. Now, I'm not going to get into the politics of Israel and Palestine. That's a very sad situation, and I'm not qualified to speak towards the politics of that. But what I can say to you is, anyone who's been looking at anyone who's been looking at what's been going on in that area of the world now has seen the videos of what Israel calls the Iron Dome in action, which is way more sophisticated than we were talking about, because we are not facing missiles, rockets, and so on coming in, right? So we're not looking for anti-aircraft missiles or any sort of technology like that. But what the dome, the concept of the dome, or this Iron Dome is to protect our country, to protect our borders from the insurgence of outsiders, whether it is illegal immigrants, whether it is persons coming to do us harm, whatever the case is. We don't have to look as far as Israel. We could look right there in Anguilla and in Aruba, islands close to us. Anguilla also had a similar issue with porous borders. A small island with, I think, if I can remember, with 13 to 16,000 people living in it. I can't remember. It may have grown since then. But they had a big problem with illegal immigrants coming into Anguilla, and they erected something called a security dome. And what that entails is to ensure that you have all the necessary assets available to your protective services in the ocean, on the land, and in the air. In the ocean, we talk about ensuring that we have sufficient patrol vessels that would cover the circumference of our country. Enough vessels and fast vessels that can intercept the majority of persons coming into the country illegally. Many of these people coming in with a pirogue, a little old pirogue coming inside. Many of them coming with an old fishing boat. Some of them coming in with fast boats too. But to ensure that you had enough naval assets outside there to deal with intercepting the illegal immigrants before they enter into our country. However, should they enter into our country and get past that part, then we had to ensure we had both assets via land and via air. And by assets, to ensure that we utilize our protective services in setting up camps or interception camps. Now, there are over 80-something. It's shown to be somewhere close to 80-something vulnerable points in Trinidad. The Minister of National Security highlighted, if I'm not mistaken, 15 very heavy points or porous points. And that's fine. We can start with the 15. We can start with those 15, right? And setting up a camp that holds military, customs and excise, immigration, and medical personnel. So to ensure that they have the assets.
Right.
With sorry, yes, go ahead. We have questions going back and forth, I want to make sure we get the questions. Someone says, I note your comment about the security dome when some years ago your party dismantled the radar system that was given us the full view of what was happening around our island. In addition, your party canceled the OPV, which would have given us surveillance and inception capacity. Well, I don't agree with the part that we between 2010 and 2015 they dismantled any radar system. That radar system was never up and running. That radar system was put there in place previous to us. It was never up and running. But let me tell you this: I keep hearing people saying about we dismantle a radar system, we cancel the OPVs. The party has already given the reasons and rationale for canceling the OPVs. Right? This was 7 years ago. This government was in power, has been in power for 6 years now. It is not good enough to come to the nation and tell this nation, well, what y'all did this how many years ago, what y'all did. Okay, hey, here's what. If it is that my party made an error or made a mistake, because I can tell you the leader of the opposition is always open to accept and admit whenever she's made a mistake. But if that's the case, all right, what has the government done now in the last 6 years to correct whatever allegation of a mistake they put on us? We've indicated that the OPVs had defaults and defects, and that these OPVs would be far out in the ocean.
Senator Damien,
yes.
Damien, didn't we replace the OPVs with sufficient vessels to deal with the issue? I saw that the PPG government bought some new vessels there that that this government fails to utilize and have it park up to get it rust. Isn't that so?
So you jumped ahead of me with that one because I was just getting to that, right?
Okay, go ahead.
So when I was talking about the OPVs, right, being defective, there were certain issues with the OPVs being defective. There were certain issues with the matters that the OPVs were way out in the ocean, so far out, and were not able to do fast movements to intercept the fast boats and so on that were bringing in the drugs, the arms, the ammunition. And under the People's Partnership government, there were 13 Dayman vessels, fast Dayman vessels, procured, and I believe 3 Chinese 13 German vessels and 2 Chinese vessels, 2 or 3 Chinese vessels. Sorry.
Hold on, we have a caller. Hold on. Hello, caller. You're on WZYE 95.9 FM. Hello, caller. 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 Okay. All right. Lost that one. Go ahead. Lost that one. Go ahead.
So there were 13 Daman vessels, but there were 13 Daman vessels that were procured, and about 2 or 3 Chinese vessels that were procured. Many of them are still sitting down in the in Tetron right now, still sitting down. They're not moving. They're not being utilized.
Senator Leiter, let me ask you a question. Someone says, I'm leaving because of misinformation. What do you think misinformation are they talking about?
Well, I'm not sure what they could be talking about.
Okay, so let me ask the person. You said misinformation. What information is Senator Leiter talking about? Just so you can put us. I mean, we like to communicate with the people who are in the chat, just as we did with Dr. Faith. What misinformation are you talking about? Senator Leiter, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So we reached a point where we discussed that the OPVs were cancelled. There were 13 Daman vessels that were procured and 2 Chinese vessels.
Disrupting the program here. I don't know.
Hold on.
Turn down the volume.
Go ahead. My bad.
Right. Okay. So anyway, look, I don't want to take it down a road where we're getting into the technicalities of what this one get purchased, that one get purchased. You asked me a question about what would we have done differently, right? That's the question you would ask me, right? Because we could go down a rabbit hole and talk about whether the OPVs were good, whether they were not, whether the 13 Daman vessels were operational now, or whether they're sitting down parked up. The facts currently are that there are a limited amount of vessels being used today to secure our borders. There have been 6 years that has passed, and we are now hearing about 2 Cape-class vessels that should be with us by June. So I'm coming back to the security dome. So what we were presented so what we are also saying is to secure the land through the camps, through giving the military the resources via vehicles, bright lights to shine on the beach, to patrol and so forth. Ensuring that our TTPS are given all the resources to put up roadblocks at vulnerable points where we know the illegal immigrants are coming in and out. Also, we talk about CCTV cameras, setting up CCTV cameras to monitor these vulnerable points. We also talk about protecting the air, radars, drones. That is what the dome was. The dome was a multi-pronged approach using various types of national security apparatus, both on the land and sea, to create a security dome to protect our country. Right now, we don't have radars. We don't have any helicopters. We saw a helicopter parked up in Kamutu for about for 5 years, parked up. I think MP Munilal was discussing that this helicopter was parked up for a number of years. So no helicopters, no drones, no camps set up at vulnerable points, unlimited naval resources. That's what we see right now. And that is why it is very easy for illegal immigrants to sail in and out of our borders. In fact, let me tell you, for the thousands of persons, citizens that were trapped out of the country, that had to go through this bureaucratic process to come back home, if they found themselves to Venezuela, they could have jumped on one of the Venezuelan fishing boats for $200 US and come across. There are Venezuelan nationals who have spoken to people that I know that during Christmas time, they went back to Venezuela for $200 US one way, 200 the next way. They went back for Christmas and came back in. There were reports of Venezuelans who were held by Coast Guard that held the minister's permit. Those 16,500 that were registered, there were some that had the minister's permit. So they had the permit and were traversing back and forth between Venezuela and Trinidad.
Senator Leiter, we have a call. Hello, caller. You're on WZYE 95.9 FM.
Pleasant good evening to you all. Straight good evening to your host and good evening to your guests. I am Paul Sir. I'm calling from Trinidad and Tobago. My question to the person there is that when it is you realize that, PNM have been into governance since 1956, right? That's where the party emerged, right? And we have been a strong party from since then.
Paul, can you hold a minute? Paul, hold 1 minute. Let me make sure the Senator Leiter, are you hearing him?
I'm not really hearing very well now.
Okay, so Paul, I'm gonna have to regurgitate your question. Okay, so try to make it so I could ask him the question. What is the question you have for him?
Right. What I'm asking the senator there is that okay, PNM have been into governance for so long, right?
Right.
The UNC came into governance twice, right? This is the perfect opportunity to show the PNM hearing. You all didn't get it right all those years. We are now getting it right. Why does your government, why does your party now when they were in government sell all the security apparatuses for X, Y, and Z amount of money after Patrick Manning had spent billions of dollars to secure this country? Now, when your government came into power, they sell all the apparatuses and the security apparatuses, and they never replace it with something good. And at that given time and at that given point, it was the perfect opportunity to prove the PNM wrong, and you all didn't, so why complain now?
All right, so Paul, I'll ask the question, all right? So listen off here, okay? Yeah. So Senator Leiter, the person is asking is that when the UNC came into power, it was a great opportunity for them in order to run the country. However, they say he's saying that they sold most of the security apparatus. And why are they complaining now about, you know, the situation that's happening now? Because there was a lot of security apparatus there before that was sold. I'm paraphrasing.
I mean, I'm very puzzled. I'm not sure what apparatus he's speaking about that was sold.
Well,
was there something specifically that was sold? I'm not aware of any apparatus that was sold.
We're talking them.
I mean, admittedly, I was not a part of that government between 2010 and 2015. So I was not a part of the cabinet or part of the government. But I was a citizen in the country. I was a citizen in the country, and I'm not aware of any security apparatus that was sold.
I think he's talking about the OPVs. Is it the OPVs that were sold back then?
No, the OPVs weren't sold. The contract was cancelled, and there was a court case that ensued that the government at the time won the court case. There was an argument that there were defects with the OPVs, that we weren't getting what was laid out in the contract, and they cancelled the OPVs. That is my understanding. That is what happened. There was no sale of OPVs. The deal was never finalized and so forth. We never received the OPVs in the end. So it wasn't
just
sold.
PNM propaganda, man, and people just bought it, you know, as it was sold. You know, that's all was going on.
Yeah.
You know, all the equipment was bought for national security. You know, they shut down all the helicopter because Kamala liked to ride helicopters, so they shut down all the helicopter. Well, that was the mentality. Yeah.
But I think, Gary, I don't know if it's propaganda, but we have to get the accurate information of what happened.
Yeah, we have to get. But what I'm saying,
there could be misleading information.
What was pushed out there was a lot of propaganda. It wasn't true fact, and people just bought it. Just like when they bought this citizen situation. But what I'm saying to you is what I see, right? This is what I think in common sense. We can even organize foot patrol. Forget the equipment for now. We can even organize proper foot patrol on the beaches in the perimeters there to restrain the influx of the illegal immigrants and to contain them. Nobody said to kick them to the sea, but to contain them and to test them and to make sure that they, you know, and trying. I mean, we ought to assist them. But the thing about it is we need to contain the situation. We can even do, with all the resources and the training we have, we can even organize the basic foot patrol, and that is my issue.
No, you see, look, let me let me come back to that point, right? I'm just getting a
Yeah. Go ahead.
charger. I'm just getting a charger because the battery's running low, right?
Yeah.
But let me come back to that point. You see, this is what typically happens, right? Whenever we get into a discussion around an issue or a problem that is being perpetrated by the current government administration, what we tend to see happen is a blame game. All right. So, okay. So we as the opposition highlight a problem, right? We indicate that there is a problem of porous borders. We indicate that this is a national security risk and a health risk to the population of Trinidad and Tobago, right? Anyone who is living in Trinidad and Tobago, who is getting up every morning, and who is currently locked down on an SOE, anyone who is looking at that right now knows we have a serious problem with our porous borders, with a problem that has worsened over the last 4 to 5 years, not simply because Venezuela has continued to go down a path of economic destruction. There are desperate persons that are seeking to come into any country where they can derive an economic benefit. So there are economic migrants coming in, and we have a porous border that literally allows this to happen almost unchecked. This is the issue we have brought to the government today. And very often, when we bring these issues forward, we have to hear about, well, what did you do in 2010? Or what did you do in 2012? Quite frankly, in 2010 and 2012, we didn't have a pandemic today where people are dying, 300 something people dying. Almost 20,000 citizens of our country, 18,000 something today, I believe it was, have contracted COVID. Every day it's 500 something, 600 persons contracted COVID. And we still sitting down here talking about what did your party do 7 years, 8 years, 9 years ago? What assets did you all sell? First of all, I don't know what assets we sold. The point is, right now, today, all of that is irrelevant. We need to deal with the issues of today. We need to come with solutions of today. The opposition has highlighted that there is an issue with porous borders. We have also highlighted in our manifesto what would be our solution to that. That is what we highlighted. You've asked me the question. I've highlighted what our party would have done, which is the security dome. So we've talked about the issue. We talked about it. Do we really want to go back now 10 years ago to talk about what happened back then?
Yeah, I think what happens is that, and this is from both sides. When the PNM is in power, the PNM talks about things back then that happened. When the UNC is in power, the UNC talks about things that back then. And at the end of the day, what we need is solutions to the problems that are facing the country today. We need solutions to those problems, because going back to 6, 7 years ago, not going to solve the solutions to the problems that the country is facing today.
And I completely agree with you, and that's what I'm trying to say to those who are listening on that were upset, saying that I've given misinformation and so forth. Listen, I'm not here to debate about what Manning did and what Kamala did and whatever the case may be. I came on here to say to the viewers today, what I said on the press conference was that we have a serious issue of porous borders. And we have a serious issue of porous borders in a time of a global pandemic and a national catastrophe.
But also, Senator, also looking at it from the other perspective and what we are dealing with here with the exile and stranded citizens. You know, I am the person who have been the most critical of MP Fitzgerald-Hines. There has been no other person in Trinidad and Tobago who have been critical of Fitzgerald-Hines like I have been. However, since Fitzgerald-Hines has become Minister of National Security, for what we are trying to accomplish here with exile and stranded citizens, and compared to Stuart Young, the former Minister of National Insecurity, Fitzgerald-Hines have done a much, much, much better job than Stuart Young. because we are fighting here for exiled and stranded citizens. Now, I could be biased and say because Fitzgerald Hines is the MP for my constituency of 𝗪𝗪𝗘 and I wanted something done in 𝗪𝗪𝗘 and he didn't do it, I could continue to be critical of him. We were very critical of Stuart Young, very critical. But that said, we here are dealing with country before party. So for the exiled and stranded citizens who was able to return home since he became Minister of National Security, right? It's a warm welcome for us. When we compare him to Stuart Young, we were happy to see Stuart Young go. And I'm a supporter of the PNM. I was happy to see him go. I thought he was there too long. He should have been gone long time ago.
And let me tell you, I've come on your program. This is the third time I've come on the program.
Mm-hmm.
You knew when I came on the program the last two occasions, I completely went to tongue on Stuart Young, right? And on the issue of the stranded citizens outside.
No, correct.
You will
correct.
notice. You will notice I came on this program tonight, and I didn't go into speaking about the current minister as it pertains to
no. But what I was just trying to say that, what I was just trying to say that is that he have done some things that the former Minister of National Security didn't do. For example, he also put 700 people from the regiment in 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗏 Beach, right? The Minister of National Security, Stuart Young, never thought about doing that. So for me, even though I am a supporter of the PNM, and I say this to everybody, I'm not a blind supporter of the PNM, because you know how much licks I get him for standing up for exiled and stranded citizens, right? Because they're saying now, because I'm standing up, they tell me join your party, yeah? You're supposed to laugh and smile.
I will tell you,
You're supposed to
I will say
smile
the same thing.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll say the same thing I said to you the last time and said to Gary the last two occasions. I also too put country before party. Whether or not I am a senator, whether or not I belong to a particular political persuasion, I put country first. When there was an issue with the stranded citizens, I went to tongue on it on every platform I could go on in the media. Exactly. I came on your program.
Exactly, the one who standing up strong. That is,
right.
You represented me.
No, we listen to this. Listen to this. We agree with that, you know. I'm not saying I'm not against you in any way, you know.
Right? No. But let me say this though. Let me just clear this part here, right? Because I want to just make it crystal lucidly clear as to what we are talking here today and why we shouldn't go back 5-7 years and so on. We raised the issue some months back when we were fighting against a minister, Stuart Young, who had stranded citizens trapped out. That situation is now nearing the new minister is now presenting some solutions. We are seeing that it is. I'm seeing it on your chat groups. I'm seeing it that people are coming back and they are coming back faster. So the opposition's role is to be the checks and balances of any government and to call a government out when we see injustice, when we see something illegal, when we see something that is to the detriment of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
All right, so I wanted to hold that thought right there. Hold that thought right there. We got to go for a quick station identification break. Hold that thought, and we'll be right back. It's in the village to the dark triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM. It's Diana, Ansem, Gary, and we also have Tommy with us, and we have Senator Leiter with us. You know, we're going to go for a quick station identification, and as we go for the station identification, we're going to come right back after this break. Stick and stay.
You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, Maplewood, New Jersey, broadcasting from Essex County. You're listening to WZYE.
Now, Senator Leiter, I wanted to look at that. I wanted to look at his statement on the chat. That's my good friend, right? He says, this is what he says. You're anti-PNM Wall Street, tell the people the truth. You know, people don't understand. Eh? I mean, sometimes you just have to tell people, Martin Luther King says, do not confuse dissent with loyalty. And I want to take them back to something. Eh? The person that dissented the most in the PNM party in its history was the current Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, when he dissented against Calder Hart. You see, like people have like they inject Novocaine in the brain, even though they use Novocaine no more. Like they inject Novocaine in the brain and they just forget. I am dissenting because I am standing with exiled and stranded citizens. If you want to think I anti-PM, you could think that from now till the cows come home to roost. You could think whatever you want. It doesn't affect me. I will stand with exiled and stranded citizens because I'm standing for my country.
Wall Street. When I came on the last two occasions with the whole panel and so forth, you made it very clear to me that you were a strong PNM supporter, right?
Yeah.
We had two very constructive conversations on that during those episodes, and it was constructive because despite your political affiliation and my political affiliation, or Gary's or whoever, right? And Gary makes it clear. Gary's making it clear. He had taken no political side. Whoever is destroying the citizens of this country, he's gonna fight them. And that's why I like Gary, because he's a true maverick. The point is that we could have a constructive conversation about the citizens that were stranded outside at the time and talk about all these pertinent points. So much, and we are on two sides of the political fence. And I respect you and you respect me because we are both talking about a conversation that is relevant to the rights of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, to the safety of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and to their well-being. It was clear that we were both fighting for the very same cause, regardless of political affiliation.
Correct.
What has happened since then? Minister Young has gone. Minister Hines has come. I have been looking onto the chat just like everyone else, and I am seeing more progress happening as it pertains to the return of the citizen of this country, right? So therefore, if I am seeing that, I am not coming to this program here today to want to come and pelt a stone at Minister Hines, or I don't even want to go back and talk about Stuart Young, because as far as I'm concerned, Stuart Young was removed from the position.
Correct.
He was exiled from the position.
Correct.
He is no longer there. Whatever is the results of his 4 years or whatnot there has now been excommunicated from the ministry, and there's a new minister. There's a new minister. The new minister came 2 weeks ago, and on his press conference, he indicated and accepted that there was an issue with porous borders. On that press conference, the Commissioner of Police and all of them in that room estimated that there were over 125,000 illegal immigrants. And this was from a few years back when they checked. So we can imagine it's a bit more. And Minister Hines has indicated that there's an issue, and he proposed certain solutions. I came on a press conference 2 Sundays ago. I highlighted the problem of the porous borders in the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, whether you were, and I said it in my press conference, whether you were UNC, PNM, non-political, apolitical, however, whatever you are, once you are a citizen of this country, there is a clear and present danger to the health of our country, partially contributed by the nature of our porous borders. And the fact that the Brazilian P1 variant has come into our shores via Venezuela. So I presented that to the nation. I presented to the nation what would be our solution during the press conference, which I attempted to say to you, but then we got pulled down a rabbit hole of what happened 7 years, 8 years, 9 years ago. I was not in the cabinet. I was not there. We are now trying to work together. We are now proposing advice to the government as the opposition. We are calling on the government to say, listen, we have a national problem. Consider assistance from the opposition. Consider assistance from private sector. Consider assistance from other professionals who may not be in your political party or towing a party line. Because we have a national crisis where we need to all come together now to work together to solve this problem that we have in Trinidad and Tobago. There's no room for us to go back and talk about OPVs and Damon vessels. And I'm sorry I even got pulled into that conversation because that was never the intention. The intention was to come here today to say to the viewers, to the listeners, to explain what the issues are happening now in Trinidad and to propose solutions that you asked of me.
So, Senator Lyda, let me say this.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Diana.
I was raising my hand. Thank you.
Oh,
Senator Lydell.
I didn't see it.
I didn't want to interrupt him.
No,
Senator Lydell, this is, I'm Diana Benskin. I'm one of the co-hosts. I believe we spoke last time, sir.
Yes.
I'm going to pose maybe 1 or 2 questions to you. I am female. The women of Trinidad and Tobago, they don't feel safe. Some women of in the diaspora here, we would like to return back to Trinidad and Tobago, perhaps with our children, our grandchildren. What is now? I hold no affiliation to no party because I had to run away from Trinidad and Tobago situation. We won't get into it now. And all I hear is what the UNC did, what the PNM do, what this. How do you capture a voter like me, a would-be voter like me? And what are you going, because in politics, it is said, when you are running for politics, especially when you're a male and you cannot win over that female voter, you're doomed. And you must have women involved in the voting process in a society, or else. And I know you will agree with me on that. How is the opposition and the incumbent, how are you guys going to make Trinidad and Tobago safe? Do you have a plan in place to make it a safe society for women to bring up their children, the next generation, future generation, and make Trinidad and Tobago sustainable, viable, so they don't always have to be running abroad, running to other shores, looking for opportunity?
Well, I mean, that's a very good question. And it's a question that could take an hour to respond to this, right? Because everyone thinks that, I mean, and this will be my position as a citizen of this country. Everyone thinks that the problem arises, or is the problem ends at simply fixing national security. The problem is way bigger than national security. What induces someone to go to a life of crime? What induces people to go after the vulnerable in a country? There are a number of other factors: social, education, health. This is a question. What you are asking me here is an all-encompassing question. It's not simply national security. If you have a breakdown of your education system, then you are putting people on the street who are less educated, who are not in positions to get jobs, who are not qualified. And what happens then? They either settle for a menial job or resort to a life of crime. What happens? What happens when single mothers don't have the resources to take care of their children? They don't have milk grants, baby grants, proper daycare. What happens when you have a breakdown there, and the mother has to work, and she goes to work, and she leaves the child goes to school, and when he comes home, the mother's not home as yet. Leave the child with granny, grandpa, whoever. If you don't have that setup to deal with children, they can fall vulnerable to the more ill elements of society. So the problem is not simply about national security. You know, you could put a number of police out on the road. You could put army out in the road, call a state of emergency. You could do all those things. You could lock up people in jail. You could increase the fines when you're breaking the law. But if you don't fix your country, all aspects of your country, your education, your education, so your education, your health, your social services, your court system, if you don't fix your country holistically, then no amount of money you pump into national security is going to solve the problem. It's just going to be you're patching a hole in a dam. So, I mean, for me to tell you what we would do, I would have to literally read out the United National Congress manifesto for you tonight, which I don't have in front of my face. but it would tell you, if you ask me if we were in power, this is what we would do in the Ministry of Education. Again, I can go back and go down the road of going back and talk about 120 something schools and talk about laptops and all those things. But as I said earlier, I don't want to go back there. We have a problem currently now. We have a problem where there are more than 40,000 students that have not signed on to their online classes. So there's an actual problem in the education system now in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm not an education expert, but these are the findings that have been presented to the nation. There are a number of grants that are no longer existing anymore. There's no milk grants. That's been taken away. Baby grants taken away. The food card has been limited and been cut down. So many of the social assistance that we had before is no longer there. Daycare centers never opened. In the hospitals, we had a situation where, I mean, it took a crisis for us to open up the 𝗪𝗪𝗧𝗏 hospital and so forth. So we have, what we have now is we have issues happening in each area of our country, each ministry, in each aspect of our country, we have issues. And holistically, it creates a problem in our country.
Yes,
and then it creates a problem for the most vulnerable. So last week in the Senate, this week in the Senate, we passed the pepper spray bill. The Firearms Amendment Act, which basically legalized pepper spray. And that is simply to give a woman, a young woman, or a vulnerable person a chance to protect themselves if they're attacked by an unscrupulous character.
But not to cross you, Senator, but pepper spray. But you just put pepper in pilau. What pepper spray gonna do for somebody with a? I mean, Senator.
So that's my point. My point is the solution is not simply by handing somebody a pepper spray and say, all right, good, the problem is solved. There is a reason why we have crime in this country. We have crime in this country in a big part because of unemployment, joblessness, a breakdown in the education sector, education system, sorry. All of these things contribute towards the crime situation in the country, inclusive of a porous border that allows for arms, ammunition, and narcotics to come in freely into the country.
Senator, can I chime in, please? This is Commissioner Elizabeth. Tommy, they call me. There's been a problem in Trinidad throughout the ages of corruption in every aspect of life that seems to permeate crime and many other ills that we are facing with education and so on and so forth. I could go on forever and ever about all the levels of administration and management of Trinidad and Tobago affairs that are riddled with corruption. What are we doing to resolve that? How can you resolve that?
Well, let me tell you something. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because that is an important point. And where does the corruption start, right? and most people will point a finger at governments, right? So from governments, from time immemorial, corruption. So everything from the government right down to those who are working and pushing the paper in the public sector, who deal with the ministries and so forth. And for quite some time, there was this advancement of the procurement legislation that back in 20, I can't get the exact year, I think it was 2012 or 13 or somewhere there. I don't have it in front of me here, but the procurement legislation was first presented to the parliament under the People's Partnership Government. That was meant to empower the Office of the Public Procurement Regulator to ensure that there were checks and balances involved in all matters of procurement and disposal of public property that belong to the citizens of this country. So whether you are purchasing boats, ferries, whether you are building a hospital, whatever that is, or if you are trying to sell assets of the state, whether it is the Petrotrin, for instance, the procurement legislation was meant to empower the Office of the Procurement Regulator to be that checks and balances to ensure and to limit the level of corruption that took place within governments, whoever the government was. This is not a PNM or a UNC thing. It is whatever government is in power at the time. The procurement legislation was presented in order to protect the citizens and the coffers or the purse of the citizens of this country. And what happened recently, which our party is strongly against, is that we pressured this current administration for 5 years to bring the procurement legislation, pass it, and have it proclaimed into law. What transpired was the current government came, I think, in 2016 with amendments, in 2017 with amendments, and then finally in 2020, most recently, and I was actually in that debate, where we saw the absolute gutting and emasculation of the procurement regulation, of that legislation, the procurement legislation. And if you care to listen to a few things that happened in the amendment, I could tell you very quickly. Basically, what the government did. Sorry?
Go ahead, Senator.
Yeah.
What we want to do, we kind of running way over time, right? Yeah. And what it is, Senator, we are so happy because we had a very jubilant and vibrant discussion tonight, right? So if you could kind of summarize it, so because yeah, go ahead.
So basically,
we would like to have him back another time, also.
Yeah. So basically, what they did.
Yeah. Senator Leiter, you are welcome.
No, I'm okay.
No, listen, Damien, I want you to come back at a lot earlier time where we can really get some things go off the ground too. But anyway, just go ahead and wrap up.
No, listen, it's okay. There are always going to be people who will want to go back in time and play the politics. But I'm not prepared today to play politics with a national disaster in our country now called COVID-19 and porous borders, right? So I'll come back to that very quickly. But just let me touch on that point with the corruption, which is that what happened in the gutting of that legislation in general, they pulled out a number of very important areas that fell from the scrutiny of the public procurement regulator. There's a public procurement office that is headed by a public procurement regulator whose job it is to be the checks and balances of the government in procurement. They removed from the responsibility or the overview of the procurement regulator. They removed government-to-government arrangements, international loans, any medical matters, any legal matters, and then there was a clause at the end that says, and anything else that the cabinet decides should be removed from the visibility of the public procurement regulator. So if they want to do any deals with government to government, they don't have to tell they don't have to be transparent to the nation or to the procurement regulator. And any of those other areas, international loans, medical, legal services, anything there, the cabinet of the government can sit down and enter into deals with taxpayers' dollars or take loans on the backs of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago without having to reference or put it under the Office of the Public Procurement Regulator and under their purview to bring transparency. And that is very dangerous, because that opens the door for corruption. The very same thing we are now speaking about here, that we're saying that has been has been a problem from time immemorial since our independence. That very same problem that you're speaking about, we are now going backwards by having gutted that piece of legislation. And that is why we as a party have called for the repeal of the amendments of that public procurement legislation, and to reintroduce the original legislation that was introduced to the Parliament by the People's Partnership between 2010 and 2015. That's the first step towards eradicating corruption in this country. Empower the public procurement regulator to ensure that all transactions, especially major transactions involving hundreds of millions, are able to stand scrutiny and transparency. I hope that answers your question in terms of corruption.
Well, let me say this.
What you're saying, I honestly know we can legislate till the cows come home. If we don't enforce that legislation, it's useless. So I hear what you're saying, and I see time and again we legislate and legislate with no enforcement. So what happens? We're back to square one, and it's very important that we do the right thing.
Yeah.
Even when nobody's looking.
I agree with you.
So let me say this. I wanna thank Senator for giving us and you've been here a long time, man, because you was in here.
Wall Street.
Yeah.
I just want a last thing to say before you tell me thank you, right? Because I feel like I didn't get a chance to say it, right?
Go ahead.
Because we got pulled down the OPV road, right? I just want to say, all that I described about the porous borders, it is for the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Because the porous borders are one, not the only, but one of the main reasons why we are in the mess we are today with this spread of COVID-19. And we can lock down our country, put ourselves in a state of emergency, put the economy on hold, destroy many businesses, more and more people going on the breadline, hungry, unemployed. But if we open back up after a state of emergency and we have not plugged the holes in our porous borders, we will have COVID spread again coming in from outside, because our borders have been locked for 14 months. And we would have to go back into a state of emergency again. The Minister of National Security has acknowledged the issue of the borders. So we are waiting to see, with bated breath, knowing that the past minister absolutely failed at securing the borders. We are waiting to see if the current minister does move forward with the plans that he says he's going to. Regardless of what party I belong to, I sincerely hope that the minister does carry through with it, because I want to see my country reopen. I want to see my country back to business. I want to see my country healthy. I want to see that we are not losing our loved ones. I have lost 3 persons in my circle to COVID-19. So I am very passionate about it. So for me, I put country before any yellow or red. I have indicated a problem with our borders. I hope that I know that many citizens see the same problem, but I hope that those who sit on the opposing fence from me can be mature enough to accept we have an issue we have a problem, and that we actually need to work together to solve the problem, even if it simply means just hearing the opposition, taking our advice, and maybe acting on it as well. That is all I want to say about that.
Well, let me say, Senator Leiter, we want to thank you so very kindly for spending over 2 hours with us, because you have been here a long.
Exactly, that is what I wanted.
Yeah, you've been here a long time. You've been here with Dr. Faith, and you have been here yourself. You know, we do appreciate, you know, you giving us time. And you know, as we say in the village, we welcome all voices in the village, right? And we believe that all the voices hopefully can make Trinidad change, you know, for the better. So any closing words you like to say?
The closing words I want to say, firstly, to the panel, thank you for welcoming me back again for a third time. Even though it got a little bit sticky at one point. but
it always gets sticky in the village, boy. When you come in the village, it always gets
that's
sticky.
all right. That's all right. Listen,
Yeah.
you can't want to play mass and pray powder, you know.
Correct,
So,
right.
so it's okay. But I've always been welcomed by you guys, right? I always enjoy the conversation. I consider this program to be a program that is a proactive program that seeks the interest of the people and the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And my final word I will say to that, after thanking you all, is to you directly, Wall Street, right? You are my PNM brother. That's what you are. You are my PNM brother. Because guess what? As long as you are for the citizens of this country, as long as you are for them, you could be back in the PNM and I back in the UNC. You are my brother as long as you have the same interests as me, which is the benefits of the citizens of our country. So you are my PNM brother, my friend.
Man, let me tell you that. That is the first time I appreciate that so very kindly. And that's why, you know, I personally have no problems with you coming into this program. I don't care who our problem. That is their problem, right? Their problem is not my problem. And I have no problem with you coming into this program. And you are welcome into this program at any time you want to come in. If there are times you want to come in, you just send Gary a text, send me a text and tell me, Wall Street, I want to come on the program, Gary, I want to come on the program, and you are welcome. So you have an open door to this program. So you know that.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that.
All right, man. Thank you so very kindly.
So thanks a lot. I just
thank you very much for taking the time.
Everyone, be safe, keep safe, stay COVID free.
Thank you so much, man. Take care.
Take care.
So, guys, I gotta tell you, boy, woo, what a program tonight.
Listen here, I'm tired and I'm sleepy, yeah? All right. And somebody, wait, no, let me respond and I ain't vexed, sir. Somebody say what I know about pepper salt. wait. I ain't vexed. What is it? You could pull up the comment there, Anselm.
Yeah, let me put it up there. Let me put it up there. Hold up.
Right? And I ain't vexed. I'm happy to respond to this one here, boy.
Hold up. Let me see where it's going, boy.
Let me fix my hair, Tommy. Huh? You know when a black woman fixing she hair or something?
Yeah, it says what that. Hold up there now.
Anyway, guys, I'm gonna sign out. I gotta deal.
Okay, Gary.
I gotta say good night. I gotta deal with an issue with the family and the death in the house.
Okay.
Okay, Gary. Thank you very much.
Okay, Gary. Good luck.
All right.
Hold up, Diana. Let me look for it. Let me look for it quick. Diana.
Yeah. Fixing here for this. But I can remember.
Here we go.
Yeah.
It says, Diana, what you know about 𝗪𝗏, Diana? You can use the pepper for flying fish.
Okay, well, let me respond to that. Fixing me here for that. I wave me Diana Benskin, having been born in Trinidad and Tobago to Barbadian parents. My godmother owned a canteen, a stall at the Queen's Park Oval. And I have served pilau and flying fish to the likes of Lord Kitchener, Vivian Richards, Tony Cozier, the Mighty Sparrow, Joel Garner. I could name a few. So I know the difference between pilau and flying fish. And by the way, I cook the pilau from scratch and I fry the flying fish from scratch. Eh? That's what I had to say to you. And I will, whilst I'm speaking about that topic, I'll just continue to close answer. I talk about states of emergency. States of emergencies are today one of the most serious challenges to the implementation of international human rights law. Serious violation of human rights often accompany emergencies, situations known as SOEs and martial law. I would hope that we do not see these trends emerging in Trinidad and Tobago. And I am concerned that if the states of emergency in TNT is being used as a sword or as a shield, the mere thought that there's a state of emergency in Trinidad and Tobago represents a peril to something. That something is your lives. That peril is your lives and the lives of future generations. Dr. Dayal Singh, in recent media briefings, spoke about persons showing up at their doctors unaware that they possess comorbidities that make them more susceptible to contracted COVID-19. So to you, the population, I say in my poem that I put out there today, sanitize, wash your hand, stay at home, wear your mask, social distance, and Dr. Faith has put faith in taking the vaccine whenever possible. Take the vaccine. This is Diana Benskin, your poet, bidding you auf Wiedersehen until we meet again.
Yeah, go ahead, Tommy. Tommy.
Yes, brother. You know, I'd like to say humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. And that one is from Rick Warren. I'd like to repeat two proverbs that I've been saying before. He who is afraid to ask is ashamed of learning. And also, you can ask, and which you should do, ask the experience rather than the learning. Because in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. And the love, that one is my form of God. Pleasant night to all, and thanks for spending time with me, and with you, and with all of you. Love. Till next time.
Yeah. And of course, let me say a special thank you to Senator Leiter for joining us. He stood with us a very long time, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us. We want to say to Dr. Faith, we thank you so much for sharing such valuable information with us. And that's what we're about here in the village, is sharing information. Regardless of person's party affiliation, we believe many people have information to share with the public. The information Dr. Faith shared with respect to the vaccine. And you know, it's funny, Dr. Faith didn't speak about a party. Maybe she spoke about a party maybe once or twice, you know, but she did a really fantastic job, and we want to thank her. We want to thank Senator Leiter, and we want to thank all those people from Tobago, you know, who actually logged into the show for the first time to show your support for Dr. Faith. We really and truly do appreciate that, you know. And as I say here, from where I said this is it, the clock on the wall said that's all. You know, remember, for every 60 seconds of anger, you lose 1 minute of happiness. And I'm going to repeat this quote by Theodore Roosevelt. The quote says, patriotism means to stand by country. It does not mean to stand by the president or any other public official, save exactly to the degree in which he himself stands by the country. It is patriotic to support him insofar as he efficiently serves the country. It is unpatriotic not to oppose him to the exact extent that by inefficiency or otherwise he failed in his duty to stand by the country. In either event, it is unpatriotic not to tell the truth, whether about the president or anyone else. That was by Theodore Roosevelt. I want to thank you guys. Thank you, Diana, Tommy. Thank you to Gary and everyone for joining us. We really appreciate you, you know, and we want to continue to have these type of programs here on WZYE 95.9 FM in the village with that triplet. And of course, Tommy, You want to continue to bring information to the public, you know, and that information is so valuable. So again, folks, thank you. See, we're going to go out with the song by 𝗪𝗲, and we continue to ask the government of Trinidad and Tobago to think over the exemption policy. So 𝗪𝗲 George is going to take you guys out tonight. See you. Same WZYE time, same WZYE channel. Later.
Think it over, think it again. Listen, if you want to see Rash Shorty, Chalk Dust, any one of them, tell them what George say. Think it over, think it again. I sit home listening to my radio. They say they're going and jam some calypso. They say they have something brand new from Rash Shorty. So I sit down patiently listening to he. But when I hear the man start back talking preacher, and then he start to diss up at Jala, is when I hear he start calling 𝗪𝗲 George name. I hold my head and start to ball, not my name again. 3 years ago he say 𝗪𝗲 you singing tata. Last year he come back with the same tata. It look like Shorty I running out of lyrics, and he want me to teach him a few new tricks. I is the man who sing boom boom 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and every time I sing it the people does whine. This Shorty never used to treat young Kaisonian so crude. I would have teach him how to gamble and eat some food. Think it over, think it again, Mr. Shorty. Think it over, think it again, 𝗪𝗏. Think it over, think it again, 'cause everybody knows I could sing Kaiso, the party side of me. That is how I does maintain my family. Think it over, think it again, Mr. Chalk Dust. Think it over, think it again. They're trying to tell people I cannot sing calypso. It's only boom boom and do the 𝗪𝗲, I know. But I's the man who sing times hard, let us work harder. 2 months later the bank come to take my car. To be a Kaisonian you have to make fast money. Money for vitamins, you have to eat healthy. You have to drive good car, not no 𝗪𝗲. You can't come in town looking hungry. You have to remember you is a role model, and anywhere you go people will look up to you. That kind of lyrics Shorty I them want me to sing, like they want to see me eating from the dustbin. Think it over, think it again, Mr. Shorty. Think it over, think it again, 𝗪𝗏. Think it over, think it again, 'cause everybody know 𝗪𝗲 could sing Kaiso, the party side of me. That is how I just get work in Miami. Think it over, think it again, think it over, think it I say, think it again. Pling, 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 pling.